Soviet brutalism.
Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Sunday, the 7th of April, 2024. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
In space.
And Robert Kepler.
Have brutalism in space?
I mean, kind of. Surely that's one of the better aesthetics to have in space because it's like minimal, right?
I guess you don't care, but surely you have to build it. You don't build it. You'd have to build it brutal in space, right? Like because it can't be brutal on the way up.
Well,
it can't be like square and slabby on like.
Well, you have it inside some fairings or whatever while it's on the way.
But brutalism is like the main material is concrete.
Yeah,
it's probably not ideal for spacecraft.
Well, I mean, I was thinking more like a moon base made of moon concrete.
That's true. Mooncrete, right? That's what they call it, or the hypothetical material they're going to make stuff out of on the moon.
Like that would just be the aesthetic. Would just be concrete domes, essentially.
Yeah, for sure.
Mooncrete sounds like a holiday destination.
Only if Crete somehow get a space program, I guess, and lay some claims. Not that you're allowed to do that, of course, but you know.
Well, no. At time of recording,
in the current year of 2024, international law still says you're not allowed to claim parts of the moon for country purposes.
Yeah, but you can still what's that like that gift thing where you can own like a square?
Those
foot
are all
of the
fake.
moon? Yeah, that can't be right.
No, that's not real.
I own a small part of the Sea of Tranquility, and they'll have to buy me out to buy to build Mooncrete.
I mean, it would be funny if those like somehow one of those turns out to be real, but because it's such like a small packet of land that's spread out over such a large area, you'll just end up with like weird like. When the country claims the actual large area, you'll just end up with these weird, like, here's a 1 foot square that's fenced off that you can't go in because some random guy owns this, but we've just built a fence around it.
Yeah. Oh, man, it'll be the story of Yakuza Zero. Right? There'll be like a small square that's like that nobody knows the owner of, and it's like we can't build around it, and it's like,
and it will be an elevator into a secret underground base of some kind.
Yeah, with some kind of fight arena down there.
Yeah.
It's a podcast about video games.
Somewhat.
We got there pretty quick.
I was actually referencing Red Alert 3 because Soviets in space.
Yeah. Oh, I see. I never played Red Alert 3.
No, neither did I. But I just know the memes. Not Soviet time. Well, I was about to say it's not Soviet time travel, but I haven't played it, so I don't know that it isn't Soviet time travel. But
I've seen that clip of Tim Curry.
Yes.
So many times. It's the best because
God, I forgot Tim Curry was in it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like corpsing so badly. Well, he's holding it in, but I mean, it's amazing.
Oh, that's fantastic that he even did it. That's so good.
Yeah. There's some crazy people in those Red Alert. Like the guy who is in Twin Peaks is the Laura Palmer's father, right? He's the president in Red Alert 2.
Yeah. Huh.
Various people.
Yeah, weird. I'm trying to remember what the last one I actually played was. I think I very briefly played CNC4 in a kind of LAN party scenario. And didn't really understand what the hell was going on.
Which one is 4 technically?
I think it
was 4 was just 4, right?
4 was like, it was fully 3D at that point.
Yeah.
And I think that was where they started mixing up some of the mechanics. Like it might have had some of the more modern ideas of like unit limits and things like that, so you had to sort of play smart as well as just playing big. I think that was CNC4. I don't know. Yeah, last one I played was Red Alert 2. Actually, no, that's a lie. Generals, right? Generals was the last one. If you really count that,
yes.
Generals 0 hour expansion. That was pretty good.
Yeah, I don't think I played that.
Oh, you didn't play the expansion?
No.
That had quite a lot of new stuff, I seem to remember. Scenarios and things.
You only really wanted it because it had like more super weapons, of course, because that was the thing about Generals.
Just get to the end game quicker.
Well, when you get to the end game, you want to blow shit up real good. So you need maximum numbers of super weapons.
Was there no way to play quick? Was there a rush tactic in generals? Or?
Well, I mean, that was the last time that we played it in a LAN, and I think we know about how the tactics of generals.
Well,
it's half rush and half ridiculous economy.
Yeah, that's my understanding of generals, right? That it was actually an economy game.
But it's not like turtling. It's not like you're building a base to defend. You're just filling the space with as many economic buildings as possible, and it doesn't even matter if you start losing them because you're making so much fucking money.
I build for China.
Build a wall of. I don't think you. I don't know if you can build a wall technically in Command and Conquer style buildings because they always have like a paved area, right? That's passable. It's not like StarCraft where you could actually use the buildings as a wall because they're all just full blocks.
I mean, you used to be able to do it in Red Alert with the silos, right? You could just build.
Right, yeah, because the silos were one tile being.
Yeah.
But then in that game, you just had actual walls. So you might as well just build them.
Fence, yeah. Or no, full blown walls.
Oh, well, yeah, both, I guess.
But the silos were practical too. And probably stronger than the wall.
No, I don't know if they were. Because, I mean, that's why it works like that in StarCraft, of course, because they don't have walls and the buildings actually have quite a lot of health. I don't know if StarCraft does actually have walls or not, or at least StarCraft 2.
No, I don't think so.
But no one uses them if they do, that's for sure.
I think there were like wall-like things in the campaign missions, but I don't think you built them.
Sure.
Right, they were just part of the maps. From what little I remember of StarCraft 1, I was terrible at those games.
Well, naturally.
RTS has never really been my strong point, as it turns out.
No, and then it evolved into the MOBAs and stuff. We never got into those as a consequence. Because that came out of Warcraft. We didn't play Warcraft 3, did we?
No, I haven't played
2.
Yeah, I haven't played 3. I think the most... well, no, hang on. I played one of the Company of Heroes briefly, but I didn't...
Oh, yeah.
I didn't stick with it.
I think I played all the way through the first Company of Heroes game.
Oh, right, yeah.
That was pretty good.
Dawn of War and Dawn of War 2 I played a little of. Again, I don't think I got all the way... I got very far into those. The last one I got into, of course, was the Ubisoft one that we'll never see again, whose name escapes me. Where it was all focused on unit combinations. Oh, what was that game called? The modern military one. Had nukes in the storyline.
Oh, you mean
World in Conflict?
World in Conflict, and
yes.
Also not a Ubisoft game, only technically.
Ubisoft? Yeah.
What was it? Oh, was it not a Ubisoft published?
It was
at the
made
time?
by Massive before they were bought by Ubisoft, which is why we were all pissed off when it got announced that they were making Division or whatever. And we were like, "What the fuck are they doing?
Yeah,
where's the sequel to World in Conflict?"
For years, Massive were
make,
just a support studio for the Assassin's Creed series, and then they made Division. Yeah.
Did they make Ground Control before World in Conflict?
Oh, I don't know.
Is that where World in Conflict came from?
There's probably some lineage there, but I don't know. Yeah, World in Conflict was a great game. It just had a really accessible multiplayer, right?
Yeah.
Like if you think about in normal RTSs, you just get in and just get absolutely stomped unless you're unless you're some kind of wizard and have lightning fingers.
Remember trying to play multiplayer Generals, probably at the LAN.
Oh yeah, it was at LGI.
Yeah, exactly. And Barlow would just
Barlow
build,
rocked us. Yeah,
cover the entire map in those black market things that give you more.
yeah, we got absolutely destroyed. Was my
economy going?
Is my memory of that.
You just drive into your base with 1 million bomb trucks.
Yeah,
just play the crap out.
Well, not if he was playing China, he wouldn't.
I feel like he usually played the Global Liberation Army.
Yeah, the black markets for them, weren't they?
Black market was China.
Yeah. Oh
no, wait,
Hackers was China. Yeah,
similar.
Yeah.
I forget what the what was the special mechanic of the black market? Because the Chinese had the hacker den, but then the hackers were individual units as well.
Yeah, they were just dudes
that you could like move around. And
I think that was it, wasn't it?
You just put them somewhere.
You had the kind of hacking center and the individual hackers, and then the American one had
UN supply
drops, but you could actually shoot down the planes on their way to deliver supplies.
And it had that really probably unintended thing where like sometimes the supply crates wouldn't actually land on the pad, so it was actually beneficial to build a line of them next to each other in the direction the planes were flying, so that they would catch the overflow.
Wow, that's so crazy.
But I'm pretty sure Black Market didn't have anything that interesting. It just gave you money.
Yeah, it was the same with the hackers though. Really, the hackers just like you sat them down, right, and money would just come in.
I think you could put them in the building, but I think the point was that because you could build more hackers out of the building, that was why you could have them outside, which then meant you could like fill all the space, like those little bits of concrete at the front of the buildings I was talking about, is like fill all the space that's not building with even more hackers.
Fill it with hackers,
yeah.
General's such a crazy game.
Very of its time as well. Very War on Terror kind of theming.
I remember being quite impressed with how that thing looked at the time as well. Like, well put
together.
It
was cool.
Yeah, well put together. But yeah, as I say, World in Conflict, probably my favorite RTS. But I'm not even sure it's playable anymore.
What do you mean?
It's one of those. Well, I think you can play the single player. Well, obviously there's no multiplayer. I guess the servers would have been shut down.
I'm sure there's a community server thing.
Yeah,
sounds like a candidate for a video. A happy salad.
I mean, maybe, but RTSs are quite slow. That's the sort of.
I
suppose the campaign isn't. That's for sure. Because it's like the whole point of that campaign is it's just constant pressure. You're constantly being shouted at to do the objective, basically.
Yeah, I mean that was the idea of the whole game, right? Wasn't it? There's like you don't have bases, you have a unit limit.
Yeah,
and a certain amount of cash management, but not too much. And that meant you could like the balance. I loved the balance between like, okay, I can spend my cash on units to get back up to my cap, or you can just do the stupid super stuff.
No, that was two different currencies.
Was it two? Oh, was it?
The reinforcement points were for the units, and the I forget what it was called, like support points or whatever for the airstrikes and all the rest of the stuff.
Okay, no, that makes it marginally less interesting in my head because I thought that was the balancing act, like whether you did one or the other.
No, the balancing was choosing which units to spend your reinforcement points on. Do you build one really expensive tank or a lot of small, less expensive tanks?
Yeah. Oh, and I loved that the multiplayer was like role focused as well. It's like you're the air guy.
Oh, that's cool.
Like, it was cool apart from like that. It actually is like, which one are you actually good at? That's the one you'll probably never get to play. The classic multiplayer problem. I mean, it didn't stop you from everyone picking the same role.
No,
well, on some servers, I think that was a server setting, whether it would restrict. I think the normal server setting was like 2 of each, which makes sense.
I don't remember it being that bad. Like with like, actually, I thought the community was quite well. Like from what I remember, I remember the community. I got to play what I wanted to play quite a lot, or at least
yes. But which one did you want to play? Because was it just one that people didn't like as much?
I did air a lot.
Yeah, I did air quite a lot as well.
Air was fun.
But I don't think the thing about
I think it was tanks was the one I least ended up. That was the one everyone wanted to play, right?
Yes.
So like people would go tank and they'd be like, oh, I guess I'm infantry this game.
Yes, I never wanted to play infantry because I was just bad at it.
Infantry was tough
because it was real difficult to do anything, and like I just think I never really got to play tanks because everyone always picks tanks. So really, the one that I actually played by choice was support because I just like. When like support and when I was playing air, it's like my whole thing about that game was I always used the unconventional tactics. So whenever I was playing air, I was never using the heavy choppers that everyone always used. I was using the medium choppers and just going anti-air as air.
See, that's kind of cool.
And then when I was playing support, I was never using the heavy anti-air that everyone uses. I was using the medium anti-air because it had the its secondary ability was to toggle it into ground shooting mode, and it just melted tanks. It was so silly until they patched it and like nerfed that damage, and then I was really sad because I was like, that was my secret tactic. Because the thing about the medium anti-air is they didn't even have smoke screen because their ability was that switch mode. So they didn't have smoke screens, so you couldn't cover yourself from being shot by a tank, but then you could just shoot the tank instead.
Right. Yeah.
And because the medium anti-air was cheaper than the heavy anti-air, you could build more of them. So it's just like a big, massive, like 15 medium anti-air, and then you just toggle them into ground attack mode and just nuke this tank. It was very funny. But that has always been my thing about that kind of any game with roles. Always, it's like what I used to do in Battlefield 2142, when it's just like whenever I'm playing one of those classes, I'm using the dumb weapons that no one else wants. I'm using that stupid C4 gun from the Northern expansion in 2142 that was completely useless, but was really funny.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
It was fucking impossible to use because it had that weird like set trajectory where it like shot out and then fell down really quickly.
Oh yeah.
So you basically had to be a very specific distance away from things to be able to actually get the C4 to land on them.
Yeah.
But if you weren't that exact distance away, it meant you could basically shoot over cover because you could just drop it onto the people behind the cover, which was very funny to get the occasional kill. And those occasional rounds where I'd just be like, I'm going to play engineer, but I'm going to take the anti-air kit because no one ever takes the anti-air kits.
I took the anti-air kit quite a bit, I seem to remember.
Well, you could do it, but like it makes you completely useless as an actual engineer to do anything that you know your team wants you to do.
I mean, you still repair tanks.
Well, yeah. It's really only to like piss off the enemy aircraft player. So it's almost just a one-on-one. It's like these two players are going to fight each other and the rest of the team can just do whatever the hell they're doing.
I think it might have been Battlefield 3 where I did that way more often. Went anti-air on that.
Sure, I mean, it's slightly more important in that game. Because really, in 2142, the aircraft were most of the time just fighting each other.
Yeah.
And like, there's very rarely did they actually attack ground.
Sort of been a Battlefield thing. Well, because I guess it would be too powerful if they could attack the ground easily.
Yeah. But that was the trick to 2142's anti-air because no one ever expects it. Because when you're flying the aircraft and you hear the lock-on sound, you assume it's one of the EMP rockets from the stationary turrets.
Right.
So a lot of times people would just let that go because you can use your active defense thing to destroy the missile, but if it's just the EMP missile, it just like disables you for a second, and if you're high enough, it's fine. So people would just let that go through if they thought they could get away with it. But then if it turns out that it's not an EMP missile, then I've killed you.
And it's like,
That's why that kit got killed, because it was the element of surprise if no one ever used it.
I think as time goes by, these conversations about old video games make me more and more sad. Because the golden age is gone. Of all this stuff being interesting and fun, and everything's homogenized and considerably less interesting.
And it's hard to know, like, because that is a kind of natural process, I suppose, for people as they get older, that they harken back to their personal golden times. Maybe
Absolutely.
This is the golden times for current people. So how do you judge whether... I'm pretty sure the golden time is gone.
Well,
right?
I mean,
and it's not just us getting old.
I mean, even if you were like about today, right? What would your golden time be? Okay, it would be the golden time for Battle Royale, I suppose. Like you've got Fortnite and you've got Apex and maybe Warzone. Oh, PUBG, I guess, on the sidelines.
Started it, yeah.
Yeah. But that was years ago now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
nothing has really innovated since.
And also those are, because they're mostly all trying to be like live service stuff, they continue for so long that it makes it feel less like dramatic. It's not like a thing you played once and it was ridiculous. I mean, not that we didn't play Battlefield for years, but there was like 5 of those games that we went through over time, and they were all quite different.
They were all quite different and all quite interesting in weird ways. And I guess Battlefield 1 was kind of the end of that, right? Yeah. Battlefield 1 was interesting enough, but then after that point, nothing. Yeah. I mean, even Battlefield 4 was on the decline, right? That was. I think we ended up liking that less than 3.
Well, that was when they started messing with the classes and the weapon unlocks and all that stuff.
It did have Levolution.
Yes, it was kind of cool for that one thing.
That building can come down.
Yeah. blow over that radio tower.
And the storm, right? The storm was cool.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. It just... I mean, I guess we've had the hero shooter, but you could argue that that's dated back to TF2.
Yeah.
And that's still about now. The MOBA's been and gone.
Yeah.
But even that was quite a long... Well, the MOBA shooter, I guess. That was a reasonably long phase.
I don't know if it was that long. That was one of the shorter ones compared to these other ones.
I mean, what was even good in that space? Other than Monday Night Combat, which sort of counts. But even Monday Night Combat was kind of a hero shooter more than I suppose MOBAs are.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
It's a similar thing, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Now it's just Battle Royale games and Fortnite. I mean, even I suppose the finals is trying to bring it back a little bit. But
no one cares about that, apparently.
That's what we're saying, isn't it? Even MOBA is already...
Old,
yeah. Sorry, a Battle Royale, I mean. Sorry.
Yeah, Battle Royale is old now.
Yeah. Maybe it has golden and then a silver age. Maybe we're in the silver age of Battle Royale or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just the classic thing. Like loads of people, like on YouTube and things like that, have just been talking about the whole like. I don't know what it is. Maybe we're hitting some kind of like inflection point where people are actually like fed up of like the AAA way of doing things, right? The no risk game, because that's all the big companies do now. They do no risk.
Huge
games.
Investment, no risk. Well, they have to be no risk because of the investment.
Because they need to make that money back. Yeah, and it's starting to bore people. And I get it. I'm bored of AAA. Like for the most part. You get the odd. Don't get me wrong. There's the odd good one. I always think of God of War and that first Spider-Man game. Those were.
Yeah, that was a good one.
They're good.
They're both very good.
They're both very good, and they do innovate a little bit, just a little bit, just enough to keep it interesting. But honestly, like I struggle. Like Hi-Fi Rush is adjacent, right? It's a big studio doing a mid-tier game, and it's great, and it's interesting.
That's what, if it's I mean, has it made enough money for that to be the pattern? Because that was the experiment, I guess.
Well, yeah, and I wonder if going multi-platform is just the continuation of that, right?
Of that
experiment. Like I'm getting older. My time isn't what it once was now that there's a small person in my life, and I think I'd appreciate the smaller, more experimental titles, and I'm not saying indie doesn't fill that role to some degree, but indie is often too far down the other end of the spectrum, as in it's just that little bit too unpolished or that little bit too. They're still interesting, but you know what I mean? You get that sort of feeling where it's just like, what if there was a budget behind this?
I mean, there's the class of things, and we're about to talk about, because we'll go into news, with such things as Hollow Knight, or, I don't know, Hades, or
I think
that sort of class of things.
That class of things is...
Premium indie.
Those are...
Premium indie. They're the best.
Those are basically, like, modern... 2D games. This is like it's as if you were making a Metroid game now, which is what they are basically. That's what all those games are.
They're all 2D. That is a good point.
And a lot of them are roguelites.
Well, yeah, because that is the other half of the Metroid formula, or the modern Metroid formula, anyway. Wouldn't that be cool if Nintendo made the next Metroid have roguelike elements where your weapon upgrades are like somewhat randomized?
I mean, that could be a fun mode. Like, I don't want that to be the core Metroid experience necessarily, but when Prime 4 does eventually come around.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously they're not going to do that, but...
That'd be an interesting... Well, I mean, they're experimenting, right? Splatoon, I haven't picked it up yet, but like, I'm probably going to play Splatoon 3 Side Order.
Right, yeah. That is Nintendo's first roguelike experiment, I guess.
Yeah.
None of us played that 2D Metroid game, did we?
I keep meaning to.
Yeah, I really want to play. I do really want to play Dread. There's that voice in my head that's going though Nintendo tax on a 2D relatively short game.
Well,
you know, there's a little bit of a barrier. It's a similar barrier that I think my brain builds up around Wonder to an extent. Which,
Oh, really?
Yeah. Even though I know
Wonder's
it's going to be great and I'm going to love it and I'm going to enjoy it, there's still there's an odd perception barrier for me where it's just like I don't know that it should cost this much. And that's just a problem with Nintendo stuff.
Well, I mean, that's like the problem of this is the Nintendo angle on people getting tired of things. Is just like they've released far too many of those new Super Mario 2D side-scroller games. Maybe. That has tainted your view of Wonder, even though it's not that like that any longer.
Maybe. But
you're expecting 8 worlds and all that. You think you know how big a game is.
Maybe.
It's like a Sonic game. It's like how many zones are there in a Sonic game?
Sure, yeah. But I also didn't play all of those new games, and I liked New Super Mario U. I never finished Super Mario 3D Land on the 3DS. Actually, that didn't hold me. Although that was good, but it didn't hold me, and that's sort of what I'm afraid of to a certain extent. That it's just like I've done this, even though the wonder element is like mixing it all up. There's a bit in my head that just goes, "I've done this."
Honestly, Wonder is pretty great. I think you will like it.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. But yeah, as I say, still got that perception boundary for some reason.
Fair.
I don't spend all that much money on like new games.
Generally, you have Game Pass.
Yeah, Game Pass fits the bill most of the time. But you know, there's not everything's on Game Pass. Not everything works its way there. Anywho, nostalgia.
Are you going to hold
rant,
out for a pro PlayStation 5 so that you can catch up on these?
I mean, I might
like
because
God of War 2, etc.
Yeah, I do want to play God of War Ragnarok.
Spider-Man
I absolutely
2.
want to play that. I want to play Miles Morales and Spider-Man 2. Yeah. Definitely want to do those. I mean, maybe this says more about me than it should, but I really like the look of Stellar Blade that's coming out soon, and it's a PS5 exclusive.
You'll probably end up
sexy character design aside, like the gameplay of it looks pretty cool.
You'll probably end up playing all the Final Fantasy ones as well, the 7 remake stuff.
Well, the only reason I haven't played it so far is because, well, I technically have a copy on PlayStation Plus, right? Because they actually put it out on PlayStation, the first game on PlayStation Plus briefly, so I'd have to re-up my subscription to that. But I could have been playing that, and I really, really want to play Final Fantasy VII Remake. But there's someone else in this room that's like, we should do that for video.
Well, yeah. I want to play it on PC when it eventually happens.
Oh,
it is available on
the first part.
Remake is available on PC. Remake Integrate is available on PC. My PC is not going to be good enough to make a good experience of that, unfortunately.
Yes, that is the actual problem with that. Is like we'd have to. I don't know.
I need an upgrade, and
but that would be good because that was the first video series, I believe, on Happy Salad YouTube.
The first major one, at least.
Final Fantasy VII.
First obscenely long one, but that's the other problem, right? That game,
yes, we'd be doing another 60-part
remake on its own is obscenely long. Let alone getting into Rebirth, which is apparently bigger if you go deep and start doing all the side stuff.
Well, infinite content.
Yeah, infinite content. The Forever series.
I think at this point that feels like too much for our channel. I think we've slightly moved away from the extremely long playthroughs, somewhat.
Maybe.
Or at least, if we were going to do that again, we'd have to intersperse it with some other stuff, not just commit fully.
Right.
30 episodes might be a bit much.
You could definitely intersperse. Occasional indie game, or what did you call them? Premium indie.
Premium indies, yeah. And I still want to do a whole bunch of retro stuff. At some point, I still want to perhaps do the future racing series and be like, this is why this genre is so cool. People should do it. People should make more of these. As I'm talking about dying genres, the arcade racer and the anti-grav racer, there really aren't many about. Although Lego 2K Drive dropped on Game Pass recently, so I might give that a go.
So you can see if you should have been disappointed by it, like everyone said.
I get the feeling Lego 2K Drive was mostly like pulled down a bit by the whole microtransaction situation being pretty bad, apparently, because it's 2K. They do this all the time. So I'm hoping the actual core is interesting enough. But we'll see. We'll give it a go. I'll give it a go. Hopefully it'll be more interesting than Hot Wheels Unleashed, which everyone seems to love and I thought was really bland. Like, bland to play. And there was an indie one that caught my eye recently, New Star GP, because it seems to be going for that Virtua Racing aesthetic. Like flat shaded F1 looking cars. And it's like, that might be up my street.
There was already a game that did that, wasn't there?
Hot Shot Racing did it a few years ago, but like not in sort of F1 sort of aesthetic. But they tried. They went for that. They went for that. Yeah, but with flat shading, and that was pretty good. So yeah, New Star GP is on my radar. I don't think we're far away from Aero GPX being officially launched on Steam, so could be the year of the F-Zero like. Oh, and hot update. I checked in with Redout 2. That game is still broken as all hell on Series X. So
okay. Sad times.
I think the PC version holds up a lot better if you went in on that, but the Series X version is still borked. And I don't think it'll ever be fixed at this point. There we go.
So, in terms of news, we already touched on a couple of things.
Yeah, so there's not a lot of news. Not a great deal is going on, and that makes Miles unhappy. I mean, news. Miles is walking. That's big news. Yeah, like actually, like hands off, proper walking. That's kind of like in the last couple days or so, he's started doing it, and it's like it's so cool,
awesome,
and he's well happy about it. That's something like he puts his hands out and walks like a zombie, which is hilarious in itself. but like as he's walking along, he's like laughing to himself, going, "This is cool."
It's pretty cool.
It's awesome.
The whole bipedal situation.
Yeah, it's super awesome to see. I'm getting so soppy, is it? Like I noticed the other day. Like we watched like Disney Coco, like the Pixar film.
Oh yeah,
the other day. Honestly, I was like tearing up at the end a little bit, and I'm like, oh god, what's happened to me?
Yeah,
what's happened?
Yeah, you're just getting soft.
Yeah.
I think in that case, it's like slightly that movie angles more towards that even than a lot of other Disney stuff that you might have previously watched.
Yeah, well, it's not necessarily. It's not.
Maybe the thing that is actually different is that you chose to watch it at all.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty ill at the time as well.
Well, yes,
when we watched it, this was in one of my down days. But yeah, I don't know. It was not even really like a parenting thing. It was kind of the opposite, right? The stuff at the end of that film. It's kind of the other way around, and yeah, it got to me. And I don't. There's several things like that I'm watching now, and it's just like, oh god, parenthood makes you sappy.
Coco's the one that is.
The Day of the Dead one.
Day of the Dead one. So it's like Grim Fandango-y, except not.
Yeah. Not really, but yeah, it's a pretty good movie. It's not up there with Pixar's best, but it's pretty good.
I was thinking of the Colombian-y one. Which one is that one?
Colombian one.
Is that more of a
You're thinking of
Disney?
Like there was
Encanto.
Oh, Encanto. I haven't seen Encanto.
Instead of the Mexican one, which is Coco, right? Yeah, but Encanto is Disney. It's not Pixar. It's just Disney.
Yeah, I've not seen that. That's more musical focused as well.
Yeah, it's musical. It's Lin-Manuel Miranda or whatever.
Right. This is probably why I'm not interested. Or I haven't seen it, I should say. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Don't blame you.
Probably the same reason I've not watched Frozen. You know, that kind of stuff. Too much singing. Put the singing away.
Yeah, okay. I've actually never seen Frozen, which is crazy because it's insanely
everywhere.
Yeah. I'm sure you won't escape frozen forever.
No, definitely not. Well, I don't know. I suppose we're at least we're on the small boy side as opposed to the small girl side. There might be slightly more.
Do you think?
Reluctance.
We'll see.
It's possible. It's possible. At the moment, he's just like, Hey Dougie's the thing. Hey Dougie's cool, by the way. As far as kids' TV goes, Hey Dougie is amazing.
What are the big kids' TV things?
Paw Patrol.
Paw Patrol.
Paw Patrol's
Don't
huge.
You want Bluey, right? That's
Bluey's pretty good. Yeah,
that's pretty good.
Bluey's pretty good. He's way too young for that. But he's way too young for Hey Dougie, in fairness. But it's the colours and the music he likes, and it's genuinely funny at times, even for the adults. Like, I don't know. I watched episode 2 today. Like, I went back because obviously Gnome's been watching it with him, and she's like 100. There's like 250 episodes. It's great. So I watched episode 2, and there's these like hippie rabbits that are complaining about like one of the characters eats their cake, and they're like, oh man, and then one of them goes up and investigates the cake, just has a little look at it, and just sort of goes, c'est terrible.
C'est terrible.
So like just absolute weird sudden change, and then like it's just filled with really stupid stuff. Like for some reason, Dougie can like do that thing where you like put your thumb in your mouth or whatever and like blow into yourself, and then a chef hat appears out of his head. It's like
nice.
It's so stupid. I love it. What a great show! What a great TV show for kids and me. Found my level.
Hey Dougie, it's about the right level.
Yeah.
But what about video games?
Silk Song has got an ESRB rating. That's the news about Silk Song that we were alluding to.
So does that imply that it's content complete in order to get rated?
I guess it has to be, right? If it
maybe, I don't know what. Like, I don't know what the like actual legal process is, because you have to send like a sample video essentially, but like it's on you, right? You have to take the samples from your game and say, this is what my game is.
Yeah, this is the content.
It's not like you're just sending them the game and then they're playing it.
Yeah, there must be some legal obligation to provide the
reasonably accurate samples.
Yeah, or if you've made a massive game, right, to provide, like this is what we think is going to cross your boundaries.
Well,
right?
yeah, maybe that
like,
as well.
Here's the sex scenes from Baldur's Gate 3, right? We're going to show you a couple of these.
Something representative. That's the idea.
Exactly. Or like here is violence that the player is participating in, because that must be a difference as well, right? Like, here's something you participate in versus here's something that's just a cutscene.
But like, in a game like Silksong, I feel like they could have made that video like years ago.
Yeah,
like realistically, what much difference is there going to be through the whole of that game in terms of possibilities for rating problems? It's all just violence, and that's it, pretty much.
Well, they could have shown footage from Hollow Knight, and no one would have known.
Well, yeah.
Well, no, the ESIP might not have known, is what I mean. Like, the game looks incredibly similar to Hollow Knight. Like even the art style looks very similar. Some of the scenery looks very similar. There's clearly some UI stuff going on that suggests there may be multiple weapon styles and things like that in there, but we really know very little about Silksong. But this rating might mean it's close to release, although they haven't explicitly said anything. They haven't said anything. It's now you can now wishlist it on the Xbox Store. That happened. There you go.
I mean, it's more news than we've had for a very long time. So,
well, yeah. I mean, the last time they said anything, they did say 2024, and that was it. That was all we got. But yeah, I'm sure it'll be great. Hollow Knight was great. If possibly too big. If I was to nitpick it, it was
too big.
Yeah, it was massive. Like it took a while to get through. And I was doing admittedly, it might just be me. I was doing a fair amount of backtracking because it's not super obvious about what you need to do next. It's one of those sort of Metroidvanias where there's a bit of experimentation needed, or a bit of like, okay, let's check the map. Where haven't I been? can I go there yet? Oh no, I can't go there yet. I clearly don't have the ability to get there, or I'm coming at it from the wrong angle. Something like that. It's one of those where it doesn't handhold you through where you need to go. There's not a marker on the map saying, here's the point of interest you should pay attention to. It's not one of those. So it probably took me way longer than, well, I don't know, than if you knew what you were doing. But it is good, and the combat is solid. Challenging, but solid. I highly expect it to score well on my fantasy league.
Assuming it comes out, yeah.
Assuming it comes out, yeah.
I reckon you're going to get that one in. It might counteract some of your negative points.
Some of my poor early year picks, yeah. Man, I don't know. I need to check in with that. I really don't know what to add to my list at the moment.
Yeah, it's quite difficult because they've got a lot of slots left and not that many games this year that I can tell.
I feel like there's a lot of unknowns. Speaking of which, Gears 6 is supposedly getting announced in leaks, I suppose. Gears 6 was supposedly getting announced in Microsoft's June content, their showcase or whatever they want to call it this year. Seems about right. Seems about time. It's been over 5 years since Gears 5.
What's going on with the story/lore of Gears? Is it like, did it end on a cliffhanger?
I am struggling to remember.
Yeah.
Like, it's like someone is in the hive mind now, right?
Yeah, kind of.
Right.
So the I can't remember anyone's names of the new cast. The female character, her mum was basically the queen, the new queen of the. It's not the Locust anymore. I forget what they're called now. The Grub. Well, the Grubs is what they've got a new name anyway, but they're basically Locust. Yeah. So her mum was basically the queen, but which gives her weird abilities. Like she can sort of. There's sections of the game where she sort of starts taking control of the Locust, sometimes against her will, and things like that. But I think she gets subsumed at the end of 5. Spoilers. Into the hive mind, so she might be the new queen now, or might at least have some. Or that happened, and she then gets freed from it, but now she knows. And there's a moment at the end of it where I can't remember. Yeah, it must have been at the end of this one where it's like, oh, but I've got this medallion off my mum, and on one side it looks normal, and you flip it over, it's the old Locust symbol. Like clearly she doesn't know what that means somehow.
Oh, okay.
And also it has a dial a death ending as well, where you could kill off one of the main characters. So how that is going to transfer to Gears 6 is interesting. Not that you care, because you don't care for any of the new cast, really. You just want Coltrane to turn up and go, whoa!
Turn out that all 3 of them died regardless of which one you picked.
Probably. That's probably how they'll play it, yeah. Like, I think it's between... Well, it's basically between, like, out of the 3 new people, I think it's between the 2 dudes, right? And one of them is Marcus's son, so it might be interesting if you pick that one. I honestly can't remember which one I picked, so if it reloads my save to put it in, I don't know what it will be. Yeah, I mean, Gears 5 felt. It's feeling long in the tooth, if I'm honest. Like, I don't know, Gears 4 didn't feel all that great. Gears 5 felt better. But I don't know. Like, the magic seems to have been lost since the first 3 games. Something's never been quite right since the end of Gears 3. As I've talked about before, when I went back and played Gears 1 and was like, this is a good game.
Yeah, bit dated now, but pretty damn good.
It's still fun, right? The Gears formula is still fun. If you go back and play Anniversary Edition, you're going to have a good time.
For sure.
But for whatever reason, the modern incarnations, for some reason, haven't quite clicked as well as the older ones. And I find it very hard to put my finger on it.
How does it compare to the kind of Halo pre-post Bungie situation?
Yeah, it's kind of a similar deal. As in, like, there's something in... I think Halo was way more obvious, right, when it transitioned from 3 to 4. the difference is way more palpable.
Yeah.
And from a visual standpoint and a gameplay standpoint, you can tell certain things changed. Some for the better, some for the worse. Gears, I feel like that change was way less clear because the core gameplay is mostly the same. And I don't know if it's just the setting that perhaps it just isn't as good this time round. Is the narrative drive what actually kept me interested in Gears? Or is it the pacing? I don't know. Gears 1 felt pretty pacey, right? You go to a new area. Oh, there's a new fight. And that area was perfectly set up for a fight. And then it ends, you move on to the next area. And there wasn't so much just walking. There were walking around sections, but I feel like maybe there were less of them. Fewer in the original 3 games. And maybe there was too much of it in the newer ones. I don't know. I really can't put my finger on why I'm not so up on 4 and 5 compared to 1, 2, and 3.
A lot of these things are just a feeling, aren't they? That it's hard to describe. I suppose maybe that's the job of games journalism, is to try and put it to words. But I always find that it's probably easier. It's probably easier with games than I have this trouble with music critics. How are you supposed to describe how this music feels in words or why it's good or why it's not good, unless it's literally the lyrics are offensive or something. How are you supposed to? I don't know. So with games, it's it's kind of easier to talk about, but still hard to get over that.
Yeah, I wonder if it's the whole thing that we talk about every now and then, where it's when indie companies try and remake an old classic.
Yeah, they try and make F-Zero or something.
Yeah, or even when Sega went and tried, when 2 Point Hospital came out, right? And you think, this is pretty good. Is it Theme Hospital? Yeah. Not 100% sure. Where it's just that little bit.
That's why Sonic Mania is so insane, because
Sonic Mania is mental for that. Yeah, because it does hit those notes.
Yeah, which is really hard to do.
Yeah, 100%. And I wonder if Gears accidentally falls into its own trap, right? In that it's because it's so similar to those original games, do the new ones just don't ignite you because that concept is the same as it's always been, even though they're super pretty and they play well? Is it just because it's Gears and that it's not necessarily innovating that you just go, it's another one of those? I don't know. And so do I care less
to make me excited about a new Gears of War? I don't know. I mean, definitely get excited about a new Halo if they did it right. Infinite, I like in concept.
Yeah, Infinite plays pretty well. It's hard to fault it there, but the story isn't anywhere near interesting as it was in those first 3 games. Even Reach, I'm including that.
Reach is a prequel, but
sure.
But yeah,
or even ODST. Those first 5 games, the Bungie games. The story is just nowhere near as interesting. Partly because they just basically took Halo 5 and went we've written ourselves into a corner. Let's not do that. Let's do something completely different. Let's just gloss over all of that. Ugh. Yeah, they dropped the ball with Halo. They really did.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
But I'm sure there's an element of the economics of it impacting it. Infinite had to be a success, etc. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I don't know if that's the same with Gears 6. Hopefully there's less pressure.
Yeah, I would hope there's a lot less pressure. I mean, it's going to fall into the category of, it's going to have a AAA budget. And Microsoft need a win. Yeah, they really do. Microsoft need a win. Forza, because Forza was last year's for me that felt like last Microsoft's good game of last year, but that hasn't ignited the community in the way that I think the racing game community in the way that I think they wanted.
No,
or at least that's the sentiment I get from YouTube thumbnails. I haven't checked in with Forza for a long time, actually, and apparently they've changed quite a bit. Should probably do that. But then
It didn't hold your attention, though, did it?
No, well, it did for a bit, but life kind of got in the way of Forza. But that's one of those games where you really do like to get the most out of it. You need to commit time.
Yeah,
like settle down and go like, right, I'm going to spend a few hours doing a proper practice, then race, cycle and do it a few times. At least that was how I got the most out of it. It's like, I'm going to learn the track. I'm going to learn how to do it in this car. I'm going to improve my time. Then I'm going to go into a race condition and do it properly. And for me, that was how I got the most out of that game and how I enjoyed it. But that's, I don't know. If I need to pause and break out of it to stop a small person from killing themselves, that's that immersion and that flow is gone. Games you can pause are quite nice.
What about turn-based games? You don't even need to pause them.
Yeah, but that would probably work quite well. I just need to find one. Yeah, that
Into the Breach. That's all you need.
Yeah, always Into the Breach.
It's the only game you need.
So you back up our nostalgia play. That was the other little bit of news that supposedly. Where did the stat come from? Or was it like that 60% of people, 60% of game time played, whereas in games older than 5 years? Was that
6 years?
6 years.
Or older.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So some research done by Newzoo. They've got an annual game industry report, I guess. But yeah, the average games by monthly active users on the different platforms. So that's the headline, but then broken down like PC games, the average years on the market for the top 10 most active user games is 9.6 years.
Yeah.
So that's Fortnite, Roblox, Minecraft, Counter-Strike, The Sims, Call of Duty, League of Legends, Valorant, Grand Theft Auto, and Rocket League.
Okay. Is Valorant can't be more than... Oh, I mean, yeah, I suppose that's the average across all the top 10, right?
Okay.
I was about to say, Valorant isn't that old.
Yeah, it's the average, yeah.
Counter-Strike, I guess, are they including the difference, the move to Counter-Strike 2 then in that? Or
Well, it says Counter-Strike 2 and Go, asterisk.
Oh, I see. They've merged it. Okay.
They're saying Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 and Counter-Strike 2 share the same executable with their predecessors, so therefore, yeah,
Wow.
it's kind of fair enough.
Interesting. But it is an interesting stat, right? Yeah. That maybe that it's an interesting stat, but also like not that surprising in a weird way. It's like these are the biggest games in the world. They've been the biggest games for a while. They're still the biggest games in the world.
The platform where people play the newest games is apparently the Switch.
Well, no surprises there, really.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the Switch isn't really known for its live service games.
Yes,
No.
for games that you could play for years.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, it had Overwatch. I don't know if it has Overwatch 2. If that counts.
Number one on every platform is Fortnite, by the way, obviously.
Yeah.
Anyway, there you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, that ties in with our earlier discussion, I think.
The end of video games as we know it.
I'm sure there'll be a renaissance.
I hope so. I hope we get like the A24 of film, but for video games.
That's what we need. There are A24 games, right?
Are there?
I think they're in video games. What? A24 games.
Are A24 behind that Civil War film that seems to be getting a bunch of controversy because of what it is?
I don't know if that's A24.
No, okay.
It might be. Civil War. Yes, it is.
Okay,
yes,
yeah.
that's A24.
Yeah.
No, A24 are just teaming up with Kojima to make Death Stranding. Yeah,
that was it.
That's not a game.
Yeah, no, they're doing the Death Stranding film. Yeah,
yeah, which makes sense.
That's a cool partnership. That's the right partnership.
So there's this article saying that the closest thing to A24 for games is Annapurna.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they probably are in that camp. Yeah, that's a good shout.
Yeah.
That's a good shout. Our friends over at Stray.
Yeah.
I still need to play at some point. That's the news? Is there anything else really happening?
That is the news.
It's quiet. Too quiet.
All right. What have you been playing then, Zach? I guess you better tell us so that we can break up this silence.
Well, I mean, there's not much for me to talk about this week either, I don't think.
No.
Although there were so the first couple of things is basically me saying I should have taken notes last time, because there's a couple of things I want to mention about Viewfinder and just on I totally forgot to mention last time, and there was a lot of things to talk about, but then this is why I should take notes, because then I don't remember the important things. Or somewhat important things that I thought was interesting. So in Viewfinder's case, the first thing that I really wanted to talk about, because it was like so kind of weird, because when you see like the concept of Viewfinder and like even how it plays, it's one of those kind of first person puzzly games that you're like, oh, it's like The Witness or whatever. And that has a certain aesthetic to it, which is immediately ruined in Viewfinder by the person talking to you over the radio.
Oh, it's got a radio buddy.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I was just like, wait, hang on. What? This is completely ruining the mood. It's like you're meant to be walking around this weird
and being
environment.
Like fire,
and it has like audio logs that you find all over the place that explain what's going on in this weird place you're in.
Which is kind of fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that. But then you've got this... A YouTube video I was watching said you've basically got an influencer in your earpiece.
Oh, God.
It's not quite as bad as, like, Dirt Free or whatever, but...
Why don't you put that on YouTube?
But it is just, like, she's way too enthusiastic about, like, everything, basically.
She'd take a picture, put it in the world, and then she's like, oh, damn!
Yeah, it's like, oh, that was sick. It's like, okay. Luckily, her part of the voice acting fades off pretty quickly. Like, for law reasons, it's like she can only contact you through like literal telephones at a certain point. So you can sort of optionally even have her voice. Right, but then there's like another character who comes in to sort of replace her in the like commenting about what you're doing side of things. But it's a much more suitable, like less cheesy.
Less, oh my God.
Yeah. So that was weird. It was like, weird. It happens like immediately as well. Like as soon as you boot up the game, she's immediately saying something.
Where are you?
Not quite in a radio though. But yeah, that was kind of weird. I felt kind of ruined the mood of what I was expecting that game to be.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. Like you want... Well, you perhaps need something punctuating stuff.
It was also because
a radio buddy might not be the right solution.
It's also because it's like she is the tutorial as well. So she's like, why is there a photo here? What can you do with this photo now that you've picked it up? And it's just like constantly prompting you to do the next thing. And it's just like, that's not cool. No. You want to naturally find out those things just by poking at them.
Yeah.
Not that the UI doesn't have like a giant bit of text when you pick up a photo that says press left click to look at photo and press right click to place it. It's like, that's the tutorial. Right. Don't need a woman also telling me to place the photo in the world.
I mean, were they trying to have their portal cake?
Yeah, but it's not funny.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not trying to be a joke. Yeah. It's just a person.
But also that is how that game tutorializes as well, right? Like...
Yeah, I don't know. I think like it could have done without that, probably.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I can't imagine what The Witness would have been like. And it's like, oh, have you seen that grid? Why don't you go poke it?
Yeah.
We tried connecting that line to that other bit. Wow, something happened.
Going back to it, I wasn't going to mention this in this going back to the other games, but in Superliminal, their voice over the radio kind of thing that's telling you what's going on is also like, it's weird because it's like it's a combination of like voice log and live voice, except because you're in this dream state, when you turn on the voice logs, which are like these little boom boxes essentially, it's like the doctor who's running the experiment sending you messages, but it's like it's what's currently happening, but they're all phrased like he's sending a message.
Oh, okay. Even
though it's like he's talking about things which are literally now happening. It's like this message seems like it's been pre-recorded, but it's not.
Weird.
It's like, yeah, that's sort of appropriate. And then, so at the end, and then the third game, Jusan, I guess, now that I've talked about Superliminal again, I also wanted to talk about how, like, it has some problems with, like, guiding you. So, early in the game, I ran into a couple of cases so in Portal 2 and many other games, but Portal 2 is like a notable one where, I don't know if it was, might not even be an early example of it, but it was the leading you of the lights, right? Like, especially when you're in the bottom areas of Portal 2, in the big open areas, it's like you see the spotlight and it's pointing at a white wall miles away, and it's like that's how they guide you to know where you're meant to go.
You got to do something with that wall,
So that's a thing that, like, video games do. And in
the yellow paint.
Well, no, not really that, though. Like, light is a bit more subtle.
Light is a way better way of doing it.
I mean, if it was yellow paint and Jusan, the entire thing would just be yellow paint, because it's like literally you're just climbing up these walls. That's what the yellow paint's usually for.
The Breath of the Wild yellow paint patch. Where everything's just yellow.
Everything's yellow.
So yeah, there's that. But like, in Jusan, you've got, early in the game, I had a couple of cases where it's just like, it looks like there's light up there, but it's just a light. Like, I was in this room, and there's like this sort of half collapsed upper level, and there's a light up there, and I was like, so can I get out there? And it's like, no, you can't, it's just a light. There's just a light up there. But then the trouble is that, like, later in the game, they actually do the thing where the light shows you where to go.
Oh.
And it's like, oh.
So you were disregarding it at that point.
Yeah. It's like, I thought I'd unlearned that lesson in the start of the game, but then later in the game, I guess it's because later in the game you go inside where that kind of light makes more sense.
I guess.
Rather than this outside area where it was just inside a building that there was a light.
Yeah, I can see how that's confusing. Would it have made sense for the light not to have been there, or is that light actually active in the scene?
No, like they could have just not had that other area lit up quite easily. There was no particular reason for it to be lit up.
Right.
There wasn't even anything interesting that you could see from down there or anything.
Yeah, a small level design mistake.
But then speaking of level design problems, so the other one, which was quite a major one for me and made me feel real dumb for a while, was like, so at the, not to get into spoilers, so I'm going to talk this in kind of vaguely, but right at the end, you get into like a dramatic walking sequence, basically.
Okay.
So you can't do any of your usual stuff, like climbing. So you're in this dramatic walking sequence, and you come to a place and you're like, okay, now I can see that I need to climb again, right? Like you can, there's certain markers, you can see the handholds or whatever. And you're like, okay, so obviously I need to start climbing again.
Suddenly looks like a leisure centre.
Suddenly looks like a part of a level that you can do something with.
Yeah.
So you can see it, and I walked down there, and then you're like, okay, but I can't jump or anything. I can't initiate a climb to hook onto this wall and start climbing because I'm in this walking mode. So what do I have to do to get out of this walking mode? And so like I walked around the inside of this bottom layer of this building and like all around the outside in this sort of crater thing that you're in, and I wandered around and pushed all the buttons I can push that don't really do anything in this dramatic sequence. And it's like if you come down the hill from where you start and you basically just walk forwards, so you see this building and it's got like a door, and you're like, okay, I'm going to walk into that door and see what's in there, and it's just ruins or whatever, and you can't do anything anyway because you can't interact with anything. But if you come down and like go slightly to the right of that, there's this sort of pile of rubble which leads up to where the climbing starts. So you can see that that's obviously where you're meant to go. But the trigger that switches you out of the walking mode is like you have to walk up to this one very specific piece of the pile of rubble, which then triggers like a little sequence where you go back into climbing mode, and it's not marked.
It's not signposted that you need to do that.
No, you have to, and it's like I was trying to come at that pile of rubble from like basically every angle that wasn't the one that triggered that sequence, which is why I ended up like walking around there for like 10 minutes or something, be like, what the fuck am I meant to do?
Jeez, yeah, that's unfortunate. That's poor triggering. Like, perhaps they could have triggered it as you just walked into that room rather than...
Well, it's like, yeah,
like,
because...
like, they could have just had a sequence where you walk up to it automatically, right? Like,
well, I mean, that whole thing is just like, there's no that whole dramatic walking sequence doesn't do anything. Like, there's no... Once you get down to that building, there's no, like, other things that happen apart from you getting out of the dramatic walking sequence and going into climbing again.
Carrying on, yeah.
So there's not really even any reason for any of that area to be accessible. They might as well have just, like, made the rubble pile lead all the way up to the path and just funnel you directly into it, rather than allowing you to, like, go into the bottom of the building and look around and stuff.
Or, I mean, does the sequence with where you walk up to the rubble pile matter at all? Because if it doesn't, then they didn't need it. Anyway. Well, I mean, they could have just had a trigger as you walk away from the building and be like, right, okay, there you go.
Well, I mean, there is the reason to have that little sequence toggling you out of the dramatic walking sequence, but okay. I mean, like... Yeah, it's just like even the like hit zone of that trigger should have been way bigger, or they should have funneled you just directly into it and not giving you this extra large open area to just pointlessly wander around in.
It's a weird problem, isn't it? Because it feels a little out of character for a studio that probably should know better, right? Like, and then in their narrative-focused normal games, I don't know, when I say normal games, but you know what I mean, their usual wheelhouse.
Yeah,
that they should know how to guide the player to the important story beat that you need to proceed. It's a strange one.
Because I mean,
unless it's a new team within Don't Nod, well, who knows? But
because obviously the other problem with that is that because you're in the dramatic walking mode, you also can't use the little thing you've been using throughout the game that lets you see where the objectives are.
Right.
You can just
so you can't even get.
So you can't even have that to tell you where to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's that.
That's unfortunate.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, it made me feel real dumb for wandering around there for 10 minutes, and then as soon as you watch a video of someone else doing it, they just walk right up to it. It's like, it must just have been like some combination of like how I went into the building the first time and then came around the building from the other side, come up to that pile of rubble from like the back, that I didn't see the sort of... It does try and have like a V shape to its like the arrangement of the rubble that looks like it's funneling you in there.
Right. But you're too exploratory.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of annoying.
I've definitely done that in other games, where I've gone off, like, done the gamer thing, right, and been like, I'm just going to have a look over here.
Yeah.
And then totally missed the signposting for what I actually should do. I've definitely done that.
Right, and now on to other stuff. I guess things that I haven't played yet, but probably will be playing shortly. the big update 2 for Captain of Industry just came out.
Okay, yeah.
And I only wanted to mention that for one thing that I'm probably not going to mess with, but I wanted to mention because it looks kind of ridiculous, is like they've put the map editor in. I mean, that'll be good for me because, as I said, that game needed more maps.
Sure.
So hopefully the community will make some decent maps.
Especially if they provided like a good...
Yeah, so that's what's interesting about it, is like the map editor seems to be quite ridiculous, really. Like the way it works is that like the elements of the map are procedurally generated, but like you're basically drawing like a polygon, and then it procedurally generates the feature inside that zone. So like you draw out a polygon of the shape of the base of a mountain, and then it just makes a mountain range in that shape.
See, yeah.
And they've allowed you to like fully customize all the noise functions as well, so you could actually adjust how the mountain is generated within that zone.
Oh, interesting.
And then you build a map out of all those parts.
Yeah. Okay.
So that does seem...
So you're not like carving the map by hand, particularly, but you've got flexibility in the tools to come up with something relatively cool, or what you're after.
Because like the way those procedurally generated mountains, like what it outputs sort of reminds me of like the SimCity 4 terrain editor,
right?
Except it's not like as manual brushing as that it was. It's just like you are just creating this like zone that it automatically fills in.
Yeah, you're doing the SimCity zoning, and then it goes, well, this land's going to look like this then.
It's going to be mountain zone. So that's cool.
That is neat. And then has it got the online services to back it up? Like, will the community submit to an online system?
Yeah. So they've made their own one, which is kind of risky because like there's been this
what you were expecting it to be in Workshop?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's been this whole thing with like there was Derg's one where they went on to whatever it's called, Mod.io, for their mods, and people were not particularly happy about that. And then there was a much huger controversy about City Skylines 2 going onto their own Paradox modding rather than the Steam Workshop.
Right.
Because obviously the Steam Workshop was the critical thing about Skylines 1. That was where all the mods were.
I can see why they do it if they've released on Epic.
Yes.
Right, or the Microsoft Store. Then it's like...
Because you don't have Steam Workshop.
No, you need another solution.
But yeah, so, people were pissed about that. But yeah. So Captain Inventory have made their own one, and I don't know what the integration is like. The trouble with having...
But for maps, surely that's absolutely fine.
Well, yeah, probably. Yeah. The trouble with having external mod database sites like that is the potential for having logins or whatever. That's why it's fine with Factorio's one, because it has an external website that is the mod database, but you can still access it purely through in-game automatically.
Okay.
And it's not, there's no separate login. It's just your Steam username, whatever.
Right.
So although it's not a Steam Workshop, it is still just an external database, but it's totally seamless from the perspective of being within the game. So yeah, we'll see about how that works for Captain Industry when I get to that.
Presumably there's some... I guess it's fair to have some concerns about the longevity of those services as well.
Yeah, maybe.
If they're not Steam presumably if it's on Steam Workshop, that's never going away as much as you trust Steam.
Well, presumably, yeah. I mean, I guess I don't know if there is some kind of back-end deletion thing that might happen on Steam. They say they'll preserve all the games, but does that include all the mod content, or will that eventually expire at some point or something?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that part of the terms and conditions.
No. And then the other thing I wanted to mention about Captain Industry in pre-playing it is that one of the things they've added in this patch is the ability to put down proper concrete surfaces and whatnot. That thing that I said that they should do.
Right, yeah.
But I mean, it was really obvious. It's not just me that was saying it. But the thing is that what they've done is weird, because you can put down these surfaces and it reduces the maintenance, but only on vehicles, not on buildings.
That sort of makes sense.
Well, it sort of makes sense, except in a future patch, probably sometime later this year, they're going to then make roads which are for vehicles to drive along.
Sure.
So it's why are the roads not the thing that reduces the vehicle maintenance?
Maybe they reduce it more.
Well, maybe. I think actually the intention of roads is that it probably is going to give them a speed boost.
Yeah.
Because it's it restricts them to only being able to enter and exit at specific points or whatever. So you're having to build it specifically. But yeah, it's I just found it weird that they made the surfaces, but it only affects the vehicles, even though in this iteration, you're mainly going to be building them under buildings because it looks cool. And because it's not really designed to be as easily made into a road as the roads will be when that interface gets made.
Sure. It's a stopgap.
Yeah. But also it just makes things look cool.
Yeah.
And, that's always good.
Sometimes that's important.
Not everything needs to be built on a grassy field any longer.
Yeah, that is a bit weird.
It's the problem with Satisfactory as well, and all those style of things. So the one other thing that I played quite briefly was I played RoboQuest again.
Oh yeah.
With someone who is not Rob.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. It's been a while since I've had a known clear evening.
Yeah. But so I played that, and that was quite weird because we were playing on hard. I guess the next difficulty level up from what me and Rob played, which is normal. And it didn't actually seem that much harder for some reason.
Interesting.
Maybe that was just a coincidence.
Are you rolling another character or still using yours? Or does it have the ability to roll a second profile, or does hard mode play separately?
No, it doesn't. It's still the same stuff, but I was joining, so it wasn't using my progress, but I think we kind of had approximately the same progress anyway.
You have character progress, right? You still have your own.
But that's not... Well, I guess
the wrenches and stuff.
Yeah,
like
the workshop upgrades do affect your character slightly, but mainly the wrench upgrades are going to be in the rest areas, for the merchants that are there, and I think we got to the same sort of progress on that.
Sure, there are some that are like health upgrades, aren't they? Like in some of those rent ones, and but I know what you mean. Most of those are like roll skills and things and re-rolls and So the crystal behavior is whoever's the primary account, is it? Like
whoever's hosting is whoever they have all their crystals, and it's the same with like opening the doors or whatever. But if you're opening a door, both players have to have that key.
Oh, I see. Right, so you have to have joined them on that particular part of the quest to get the key. If you're playing co-op and do it, or.
No, you just both have to have the key. So you could have got the key single player, but if you haven't opened that door yet...
Yeah, interesting. Because that'd be slightly obscured, right? Because RoboQuest doesn't list the key if you've used it, right? Like, so if you've opened like a fancy door...
Yeah,
like it disappears.
It disappears from your UI, but if the other person hadn't opened it, the door would appear locked again, and then they'd have to have the key for you to be able to access it.
Interesting. Yeah. So it's a little bit obscured.
Yeah, slightly. But so the main thing that was weird apart from the hard mode, was they somehow had. Well, I know how because we then later went and got it on my account, but they had a gadget that I didn't have, and I had some that they didn't have.
Oh, interesting.
But the one that they had that I didn't was a jetpack, which significantly changes everything about that game, really.
Wow. Okay, I wasn't expecting that.
It's more of a hover than like going up.
Okay.
So you sort of basically maintain height.
Yeah. But still, that feels like it would be a game changer.
Yeah, it seemed like it was. Also, it kind of super trivializes some of the purple rooms and one of the like crystal levels also.
Weird.
But you do have to the way to get that jetpack, which is basically we just barely missed out on it because it's in the middle of the fusion core, which was the last time we played. You got when I disconnected and you continued playing into that level and then died.
And then got boned. Yeah.
Like midway through that's where
that level seemed hard.
Yes. Midway through that level is where you get the item that you need to then give to someone else in order to get the jetpack.
Right. Jeez. I don't know if I'm on board with that.
Well, because once I got it, because when we did another run and we got to the place where you could get it and I got it, I was like, I don't like using this, but I'm sure if I tried using it more, I'd get used to it.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems... That's odd. It feels odd. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah.
But, man, talking about RoboQuest makes me want to play RoboQuest. Because I just love jamming out to that, just shooting stuff while that absolutely killer soundtrack plays. It's really good.
Yep. And we also got to the final boss, so I know...
Oh.
We didn't finish it. We both died. But, I've seen what the final boss is like now. And it doesn't actually seem that difficult. We just weren't quite on top of it. It's you've got it does attacks it telegraphs the explosion radius on the floor, but the main thing is it's just got these sweeping beam gates all the time. So it's you have to jump them or duck them or move to the middle of the map or move to the outside of the map, that kind of thing.
Okay, so yeah.
So you're really having to concentrate on that. The shooting part doesn't seem that difficult. You're just holding down the fire button while you're constantly doing the navigation.
But you're doing the spatial awareness thing. It's a little bit like I think Doom has a couple of bosses like that, right, where it limits where you can go.
Yeah.
And, that's actually your main concern. Just keep unloading whilst you're managing where you are.
Although the other thing because we've only seen that final boss one time, is we didn't understand what was going on because it has there's a yellow bar beneath its health bar. We have no idea what that's for, and occasionally it would spawn these little protrusions out of the ground that didn't seem to be turrets or anything. It's what are they doing? We don't even know. It's you shoot them and they go away, but why would we need to shoot them and why would we not want to shoot them? What are they actually doing? And then what is this yellow bar for? What does that mean? So yeah, we're going to need to get to that boss a couple more times before we can actually discover what's going on.
Interesting.
But we were missing. I think from the runs that we played, I think I now have 5 of the crystals, so I think our crystals were matching then.
Okay.
So I'm at 5 out of 6 now. I don't even know which one I'm missing any longer.
Man, I need to get back into it so we can do it before you know what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess the other thing that was... So with the jetpack, because they had it before I did... They were like jumping in and flying around and drawing a lot of the enemies. So we had one run where I was basically sniping. Like they'd go out there and just draw the aggro, and I'd sit in the corner and just snipe them casually.
Nice.
Which was a bit dumb because I was playing like the stealth melee class. It's like this is not the correct class to be doing this with, really. But you know,
it's just way the dice rolled.
Also, I was just trying to star that weapon, so you know.
Okay, fair enough.
Had to do at least one run with it.
Man, Robo Quest is a cool game. Talking about that sort of like, it's not even premium indie.
No,
like, it's definitely indie ass indie, but it's a good one.
Yeah. And then the main thing that I spent far too long this whole 2 weeks was just playing a shit ton of Stardew because that patch happened.
Oh. I just realised what I said as well. It's not even, but it is a roguelite.
Yeah, it is.
It does fall into that into that bucket. But yeah, Stardew patch. Yeah. Bagels.
No, not bagels. That's a mod. But yeah, I played a shit ton of Stardew, and it's well, the parts that are like just generically cool is just sort of quality. It's just like now all the NPCs have winter clothes, so they actually look different in the winter.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And then there's a bunch more dialogue for like whenever like an actual major event happens, the next day when you talk to people, they'll actually talk about the thing that just happened.
Oh, that's neat.
Which is nice as well.
Yeah, some polish. Attention to detail.
And then there's a few extra like machines and whatnot where there's just like, you know, you can get a fish smoker and you can get a dehydrator and
can you get a meat smoker though? Like, can you smoke fish or can you
meat doesn't exist in Stardew apart from bug meat, I guess.
Bug meat.
But that's not for you, that's for fish.
So you can't invite Mark Zuckerberg around.
No, you can't smoke some meats.
Smoking these meats.
You know, you smoke fish and then feed it to a raccoon, I guess. It's weird because like that's one of the new like sub like events, I guess, is like at a certain point there's a storm and a giant tree near your house falls over, and then for some reason you decide I'm going to turn that giant tree stump into a little tiny house, and then a raccoon moves in, and then you just feed that raccoon a bunch of shit and it starts a family and gives you some stuff in return. It's like, I'm not sure you want a raccoon family really living in close proximity to your farm.
Hi, trash pandas.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, mainly that raccoon just wants smoked fish and clams and...
Raccoons are cool though.
Well, I mean, this one is kind of cool, I suppose.
They're rallying against capitalism. At least so the early 90s cartoon would have you believe.
Yes.
The raccoons. Was that 90s or was that 80s? I don't know. It's that sort of borderline.
Yes.
I liked the raccoons. The raccoons is cool.
But yeah, there's those kind of general, like, little enhancements. But the weird thing about it I was finding is, like, they've added a bunch of stuff that, like, from my perspective, it makes getting through the game easier. But, like, what would that be like from a new player's perspective? Would it just seem like that was balanced? Like, have I adapted to the previous difficulty of Stardew so much that this new stuff just makes it seem too easy?
Right.
Or is that actually a good thing for new players?
Is it a good balance? Yeah.
To get this new stuff? Because the main thing is that there's just like, you just find loot crates essentially, kind of, around the world. So in the mines, you'd find geodes that you could then take to the blacksmith and break open, and then they had the stuff for the museum in, basically. So it was part of the collection process. You'd get a bunch of these geodes, take them to the blacksmith, he'd break them open, and then you donate the stuff to the museum to complete the museum collection.
Mm-hmm.
But now you get the loot boxes, which can just appear anywhere. So, like, you can just cut down a tree and a loot box will come out.
Ta-da.
And you take those to the blacksmith and break them open, but those just have, like, useful shit in, like food or seeds.
Okay.
And it's just like, this is just free stuff, basically.
Yeah.
And then also in the vein of free stuff, they've changed the...
Is it a way of just sort of saying you did a good thing?
Well, it's not really you did a good thing. It's you did anything at all that a loot box spawned.
Yeah, okay.
But and then...
That seems a little odd.
And in the same vein of making things easier in that aspect of like free stuff, they've added to the quests... So you get like the little quests, which are just like give a person an item, basically, usually, or catch free fish or something. You have those little quests, and then you have like later on you get the big quests, which are like basically mostly designed to take a whole week or like be completable within a week at least. And if you do 3 of the small quests or every one of the big quests, you now get a prize ticket. And you can turn that in to just get stuff, and it's like a little. It's a set order of things that come out of this machine, but like it scrolls, like the little wheel scrolls along to the next item or whatever as it comes out. But like all that stuff is just. Well, firstly, it's actually like quite valuable. Like one of the first things I got out of that machine was like a fruit tree sapling, and those are like for early game. That's quite a lot of money. And then later on, you just get well, in some cases, you get just. What might as well be literal money, like a treasure box that's worth 5,000 quid when you sell it. It's just like,
all right,
that's might as well have just given you actual money. They just give you an item instead. But
it's like in Yakuza where you save someone from some hooligans and they for some reason give you a gold plate.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, okay,
that is kind of like that.
I'm just going to sell that.
But yeah, so there's all this new stuff that is just like, especially in the early game. Just seems like it's giving you way more free shit.
Okay.
Which kind of makes it easier.
Yeah. I wonder if that is a... Is there anything in the options to be like don't do that? Or like...
Not that I noticed. I don't think you can turn off the loot crates or anything.
It does seem like a straight... Like, it's purely existing...
For people who've already played it, to get through it faster.
Or balance reasons. It's one of the two, right? Like, is it for new players or is it just to speed up the experience for existing? Like, it seems weird.
Well, because the other thing about it, as I've been getting through it, they added like another 5 achievements for things that were mostly already in the game but didn't have achievements before.
Right.
Which is now why I'm stuck playing this entire playthrough, because they've added the achievement for getting 100% completion, which didn't exist before, even though I've already done that before.
Right, that's mildly annoying.
And because obviously in Stardew's case, it's like it triggers a sequence or whatever, you can't like load a save and just have it pop the achievement. You actually have to actually physically get to that point and trigger the in-game thing to happen.
That's frustrating.
Or at least I assume you can't just... I think, well... The other thing is if you load a save that was 100% complete before, it won't be any longer. So maybe you can re-trigger that sequence? Maybe. I don't know, because the trouble with sequences like that is...
You mean it's 100% with all the new stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe that is different.
Because the one of the things you have to do for 100% completion is craft every item. And because there's the new items now and new blueprints to craft them, theoretically you won't have that completion any longer.
Is it one of those things you have to do within the time period of Stardew as well?
No, because so that's the other thing about why the balance of these early game free stuff things is that like the original like completing the community center goals of Stardew that were in the game from the start.
Yeah, the 3-year thing, right?
There was 2 years. Start of the 3rd year. That's the classic like completion of Stardew. That was before the perfection for 100% thing existed. And that was also before like the entire second farm on the tropical island and like all the volcano dungeon and all that other stuff was introduced. And that's where like the perfection tracker comes in, because the actual tracker is on the desert island basically. So that whole concept didn't exist before that was introduced. And that's where you also get the like uber late game missions that are like super hard. Like you can get basically a toggle that turns the mines into like hard mode where all the enemies get harder.
Okay.
So that like that obviously didn't exist either. So that's why I'm like, is the extra loot making the early game easier, actually just because the whole game is actually way longer now.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
you still have to play those 2 years, but you can get to the island and stuff before the 2 years.
But they didn't necessarily want the play time to be
that much longer to get to the same amount of content.
Yeah, maybe. That as long as they, I guess they and the community don't feel that like it ruins the core experience, right? Because it's a risky strategy, because Stardew is quite a well-liked game.
Yeah.
Like, and if you're going to go in and make core changes that mean people coming into it don't have that core experience.
Yeah, because like adding the island and stuff was fine because it was like post-game essentially.
Yeah.
Rather than making all these modifications to the early game stuff.
Yeah, interesting. Risky.
But yeah.
What does all this mean for Haunted Chocolatier?
Oh, God only knows. I haven't heard anything about that game.
No.
And this update seems like it was quite large.
Seems extensive, yeah.
But yeah, because I know what's going on with Stardew, I got through the 2-year thing basically within 1 year, almost. I very nearly finished the whole community center in the first year. I missed it by like a week because because a fruit tree didn't grow in time. Basically, I planted it too late.
No achievement for that, fortunately.
No, luckily. But yeah, I got through that super quick, and then I haven't quite finished the second year, but I'm already like.
Out of curiosity, how long is super quick, like in terms of actual like game time?
Well, obviously, because of the way Stardew works, you actually can't. It's not like you can make that go any quicker. I mean, obviously you can if you're doing some ridiculous speedrun cheese and exploiting the game mechanics in stupid ways, but.
Right, so like
every day is still going to be like 15 minutes long or whatever.
So, yeah, okay. So it's still some real time factor.
Yeah.
It's not like you sleep away the day, or...
Well, no, not if you're playing it in a normal way. But yes, if you want to go super speedrun cheese, you totally can.
Okay.
There are several ways that you can play that game by basically just sleeping the entire time, almost. Where it's just like, just let things happen.
Okay.
Don't even bother farming. But yeah, I've been playing it pretty normally, apart from efficiently, where it's like...
Do you have to sleep? Can you get by without?
No, you do have to sleep. You pass out at 2 a.m. if you don't get into bed.
You just pass out.
Yes.
Is that a bad thing?
Yes.
Like you get penalised for that?
Yes, you get a medical bill, basically.
Oh, wow.
You passed out in the street. Someone had to carry you all the way home.
Yeah, pretty much.
Man, segue a little bit.
Yeah.
But I was watching... And minor spoilers, but I've been watching The Bear season 2.
Right.
Yeah.
Still loving it, but season 2 is quite a different beast from the first season.
Yes,
like,
correct.
First season's better.
Yes,
so far,
definitely.
But I just like watched the episode where one of the chefs, Marcus, that is off in Copenhagen doing some patisserie training, essentially. And just the completely random like moment where he just comes across a guy that had like cycled into a barrier or something, and he's like trapped under a barrier. And he's like, what the fuck, man? just like this really awkward where none of them understand each other, and he's like lifts this railing off this guy, and this guy gives him a hug, and then just gets on his bike and goes on his way, and he's like, all right then, and that has no consequence to the plot at all. It just happens.
It's just a thing. I suppose maybe that wouldn't happen in Chicago. Maybe that's the idea.
Yeah, maybe. It's so weird, but like also I love it. Like it's like just the randomness of it.
Yeah. That's the strength, I think, of not to get too off track, but that's the strength of the second season is the individual episodes rather than the like that, the kind of character focused episodes. That's what's good about season.
It is a little more zoned in, but I miss the chaos a little bit.
Yeah.
And the insanity of what was going on in the first one. Nothing beats the party episode, right? Where they're doing the kids' party or something.
Well, you wait until the freaking Christmas episode, then. Okay.
Well, and the episode lengths are wild. So the next episode is like an hour long rather than half an hour. Like that's quite a difference.
Yeah. I quite like that because I guess that's streaming. You can do that.
Yeah, you can do what you want, but it's cool. I'm kind of glad I saw that because it's like, oh, okay, right.
Can't commit to that yet.
Yeah. So, wait. If we want to watch something short, the next episode of The Bear is not the thing to pick.
So yeah. Anyway, I like this play, because now I'm having to go for perfection again, or well, I maybe don't have to, but I'm gonna, because I'm gonna get that achievement in a fresh save, I suppose, even if you can go back to an old one. But now I'm like at the point where I can sort of move towards more cheese tactics, because when you're completing the community center and some of the goals that you get to at the end of the second year, the assessment of your farm, it's not just about making the community center, it's about doing some other things. So like shipping 15 of every different crop and stuff. That kind of inherently means you have to like grow every crop, obviously, to get that achievement. So, but then like, obviously that's not the best way to make money. The best way to make money is grow the one crop that makes the most money.
Right.
So once you're past that, it's like, now I can just totally destroy all my like fancy different crops and just grow one really expensive crop everywhere for the maximum amount of time. Cover the island farm in just nothing but pineapples. And I've already got my, on the main farm, the greenhouse is already full of the ancient fruit, although that's not even cheese, that's just like the classic.
How dare you talk about your mum like that? Sorry.
Oh dear.
But yeah, like everyone, I think everyone goes with ancient fruit in the greenhouse because it's just like it takes forever to grow. Well, it takes forever to grow the first time, and then it stays there and produces fruit every week or whatever. So it takes a while to get to that point. But like it also, if you want it to survive through winter, plant it in the greenhouse, and then you never have to replant it. It just sits there forever, being a source of ridiculous amounts of money, which you're going to need because obviously perfection requires you to build all the insanely expensive buildings.
Right.
The 10 million gold clock.
Okay.
And I've just about got 1 million on hand now, which I'm going to use to build the first of the warp totems, so I can warp directly to the desert island farm. I can warp back from the island because you get that one for free. Well, sort of free. You have to do some things on the island, but you get that warp totem that sends you from the island back home, but you don't have the one that sends you the other way.
Right.
That one you have to pay for.
So you can at least try and avoid a 2 a.m. passing out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can sleep on the island. Like there's a farmhouse there, and you can also now another item. I guess a new item. You can make like a tent kit as well, single-use tent, which I've never used. But the trouble with that is the trouble with sleeping on the island farm is, of course, like in the morning when you need to deal with all the stuff that you need to deal with.
Not there.
Ideally, not any watering if you've built enough sprinklers, but you maybe have to like deal with your animals and open the doors and whatnot.
We've had a stealth tea delivery through the door.
A really fucking hot tea. Ow.
Thank you.
So yeah, that's starting. I'll probably finish that run. I don't know, maybe this next 2 weeks. I was looking at my old saves, and I think the previous perfection one was like I'd taken it up to about year 4, so I'm about halfway through, maybe. Although theoretically, I should be able to do it faster this time because of all this new shit.
Yeah. It's just easier now.
Yeah, it's just a little bit easier. And that's all I played. Just far too much time.
Robe.
Hello.
Is dew falling on your gaming week?
I mean, there were stars involved, I suppose. I don't know if there's
forms, doesn't it? It doesn't fall.
Yeah, I guess it just
appears.
Yeah, it just instantiates on this
plant
bluebell.
But stars, they were involved.
I mean, I guess okay. It's not the order I had planned on talking about stuff, but there's stars fall out of the sky in Forager, right? Segue.
Yep, occasionally.
Man, I've played quite a lot of Forager again. I'm like
Forager.
Yeah.
Florida.
I'm at like 34 hours now.
Yeah.
I've played quite a lot of it, and it's I think I'm falling off because
you thought you were falling off last time.
I did think I was falling off last time, but it's like the grind is real in that game. It's quite I wish the progression in it was way faster than it is, because it just got to the point where it's just like, okay, the next stuff I need in order to like build more my gear, improve my gear and stuff like that. Things I know to do.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do.
So you don't wait.
As in, I know like I need this particular item, which I had never encountered, and I'm like, how do I do that? What do I do in order to acquire those? So spoiler alert, I suppose, for Forager, if you're trying to figure this out yourself. Like, it was and Zach will know what I'm talking about. It's the stuff you get by making dig spots in the biomes that don't normally have dig spots.
I mean, they all do normally have dig spots. It's
really, but like they don't show up. Like,
well, the thing about
the thing, like the it's the frozen and the frozen, the dark, and the evil land don't get dig spots.
They do. The thing about dig spots is that basically the game only spawns a certain number of them. So if they already exist somewhere else, like in a land that you haven't looked at for ages, and you've unlocked a new piece of land because it's already at the cap, the new piece of land can't spawn them. I've
never seen them spawn in those areas. Like, they've only ever appeared in the sand area and the occasional one in the green area.
Yeah, like, I mean, I think the trouble is that the way I've seen it in the game when I've played it is like the sand area sort of absorbs the spawn cap, because it seems like they're slightly more common, and they also spawn under the flowers in the sand area. Although I feel like those might be in a different spawn pool. I don't actually know the exact mechanics,
right.
But
either way, I had to look at what the bloody hell these things are, because I was like, it's been so long and I've not seen one of these. I've got all the land now. I've done as many of the NPC quests as I could at that point, and I'm like, I do not know what to do.
I guess so. The way you would be able to tell what those items were, the artifacts that you get from the dig spots, is that in the museum they're in the same category, and you can see that there's 4, and then they're like, there's one dig spot and one fishing trap for each of the 4 biomes.
But I hadn't discovered any of the dig spot artifacts. That was the problem, right? So I discovered the fish trap ones,
right,
for every area, and I thought, oh man, are these just super rare fish trap things? So I went on a farming binge to get more berries to then make more fish traps, and they still weren't turning up.
So presumably you'd also never like had a shrine give you the excavator thing.
Oh yeah, I'd had that, but I thought. A bit of me was just like, I don't understand.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I had my shrines in the red area.
Right.
Whatever you want to call that, the sort of demon zone.
Yeah.
And like, when I then dug all those out, I had never got the item from it. So gaming the system a little bit, like I then moved my shrines around.
Yep.
Put them next.
That's the real cheese of Forager.
Put them next to lighthouses.
Yep.
And also then started burning luck potions.
Yeah.
Whenever I got that, but then the problem is like the shrines randomly give you 2 things to pick from, and they have like a 20-minute cooldown, a 20-minute real time cooldown.
Oh yeah, just destroy them and rebuild them.
I didn't even think of that. That's genius.
That's where the cheese is.
That's genius.
A lot of effort, but you can just totally bypass that.
That's a good idea. But it doesn't matter now because I'm past that point.
Sure.
Because the next step is even more of a pain in the ass. Because I was like, okay, I've managed to... Because it started asking about legendary gems for things. Like, I need to start making the cosmic steel. Okay, I can generate my own stars from the sky now and start farming out the star fragments that I need to make cosmic steel. The rest of my production line is fine. I've got that all sort of good enough, I suppose. But the legendary gems I'd only ever seen in the market occasionally.
Right.
And like how on earth do I get these? And it's like, it never occurred to me that I need to summon the hard bosses using sigils, and those are the things that dropped from him. It never crossed my mind that was what I had to do. So I had started building more markets, and then like was hoping they would just turn up, or maybe they're a super rare dig drop or something or mining drop like the other gems. And it's like, but it just never happened. And so I looked it up again. And it's like, oh no, you have to summon the hard bosses. And then it's like, okay. And then you get like 1 or 2 from one of those, and it's like, Jesus, okay, so the actual production requirement to make the sigils, then summon the boss, then fight the boss, and it gives you like 2 of these things, of which I need loads.
Yes, but that's the bad way to do it. The theoretically good way to do it is go into the Void Portal and run that until you get to the point where the legendary bosses are spawning all the time.
I had also read that, but also I can't get that far down because there comes a point where it's just like the time requirement is really harsh.
Yes, it's not saying that you can't do it because of necessarily like...
My DPS is pretty good.
Yeah. It's not about killing the bosses, it's about killing everything fast enough.
And getting around that level, which can sometimes be really convoluted.
I mean, that's where a massive drone swarm also helps, obviously.
I've got 5. Is that enough? I've got 5 drones at this point. God, keep going, Jesus. Yeah, well, I don't know. I think it's just like it's getting too much. Like these hurdles are too big.
I mean, it's not super bad to grind the... I forget which one of the bosses is the easiest one, but one of them is slightly cheaper than the other 3. Like the other ones are a bit much.
It's the Slime King's pretty easy.
Yeah,
I can take him out pretty easy. I summoned the Dark Beat and got completely owned.
Yeah, I don't remember what the actual tipping point was for me when I got that super late in the void. Because I do remember, like, I've definitely got to the point where it's just like all 4 of those bosses are spawning and there's like 5 of them. It's like, this is ridiculous.
I mean, I thought it was bad enough when 3 of the lightning bosses are spawning all at once, generating enemies.
Yep.
I've got the Void Sword, I've got the upgraded Meteor Rod, and I've got the Storm Rod. I've got I'm upgrading as far as I can get.
Yeah, I think the thing that actually tipped the balance maybe was when I just started using all the potions. You just use all the potions simultaneously, so you have all the buffs, and then so your sword swings are shooting out poison balls, and you're also lightninging everything in the vicinity as well. Yeah. And you're constantly shooting out fireballs as well, I think, is one of the other buffs. It's just like everything around you is just exploding, basically.
I mean, the Void Sword shoots fireballs.
Oh, yeah, that too.
Occasionally, so...
But yeah, you definitely can... Once you get powerful enough to do that...
Anyway, I mean, it's been useful because it's a game I've just been able to put on and sort of just... Even though it's got no pause, which bothers me. I mean, you can sort of pause it if you're not in the void, right? Because you can just pull up the skill tree.
Well, and you can, if you complete a void level, the time limit turns off.
Time
so
stops, so you can just sit there. Then. Bloody Kraken eyes. I had to look that up as well.
Yeah, that was the thing I mentioned the first time we talked about Foradew. Just like the one use for the fishing rod that you would never know.
And it's so slow to farm what you need.
Yep.
Like, oh, God, man.
That one sucks. That one is definitely
and it's just completely... Yeah, this is my problem. Foradew doesn't... Like, in this... I guess mid-tier up in terms of the game's progression. Like, it is poor at signposting what you need to do.
Well, so when you were talking about like using the sigils to summon bosses, it's just like it's another one of those things where you wouldn't even. There's no reason to think that you would want to do that if to get a specific item. Like maybe you'd want to do it just to see what the bosses were, but there's no reason to know that that's where the legendary games come from.
They're going to have some sort. You have no idea where they come from. Like, why would I do that?
But then that comes back into the other problem of Foradew is like in some ways you do just have to do everything once to see what it is.
I get that. That was why I'd even built the damn sigil thing in the first place. Yeah, exactly. And it was like, and I had a few.
It's like, what the hell is this thing even?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, why you wouldn't have known about the XP books, because why would you think that the inscription table gives you a thing that gives you more XP?
It took me a really long time to get those. And I'm just missing the magnum opus, I think. Unless there's a step after that as well, I don't know. I think I'm still missing one of the main tools somehow. And I didn't actually check to see whether the super scepter or whatever appears as a tool, but I don't think it does.
You get the obliterator.
Oh, right, that's what it is. Yeah, no, I haven't built that yet. Because I think I need some more cosmic steel.
Yes, naturally.
Matt, I don't know. I think the hurdles are getting too big. And my patience is dwindling rapidly. But it has been because I basically spent all of yesterday on it, and it's quite useful, as I said, just leaving it sort of running because your production's still going.
Yeah, right? Things are still digging.
Things are still happening. You're still gaining if you're idling, and so I can sort of still
manage a child
while it's sort of running. I can just put the controller down for a bit with no real risk. or easily pop into the skill menu to actually pause it if I need to, but which you can't do in the void. There's no pause in the void. Yeah, and just have a Spotify list running. That's been nice.
Yes, definitely need some actual music.
Yeah, just jamming away to things. Putting a bunch of reggae on because Miles seems to like reggae. I guess it's like easy boppy sort of feel.
Bouncy music.
Yeah, so he sort of bops along to it. I listen to a lot of reggae. So it's kind of been nice as a just sort of a completely shut off game. Because at a certain point when you're just managing things, it is mindless as hell.
Yeah.
And that's probably where that this 33, 34 hours has come from. Just zoning out completely. But boy, yeah, it's getting to me now. It's getting to me. I'm too aware.
I mean, I don't know what the actual achievements are, as in the system level achievements, not the in-game ones. Which ones of the in-game achievements are system level achievements?
Some of them are.
Well, yeah, some of them are, but I don't know which ones, so I don't know how much of the percentage are you going to get.
I don't know. I'm at like 200 gamer points out of 1,000, something like that.
Wow, that seems low for being that late in the game.
Yeah, like some of them are like get to void 30.
Well, sure.
I think, and
it's just whether there's like the achievements linked to like the whatever the last of the in-game achievements are ridiculous, like the 1 trillion coins or whatever.
Right, yeah. I saw that and was like, what? That's a little bit like the seriously achievements from Gears, right? Like just the ridiculous kill counts you had to get for those.
Well, but in this game, the whole point is like you can exponentially increase things, basically.
Sure.
So it's not like you actually have to grind out 1 million kills. You kill one thing and you get 100,000.
Well, I mean, I'm nowhere near that at the moment, but I guess it's those bosses. Do they like kick out that much, or
I forget what the trick is. I think it's something that because it's one of the. I think it's like the lighthouse. Lots of lighthouses combined with something.
Do they stack?
Yeah, they stack if their zone overlaps.
Interesting.
And then obviously once you have the obliterator, you can just make the water where you need it to be. So you can basically build like a ring of lighthouses around an island that has the one thing on it. So it's got like 12 lighthouses all buffing it or something.
Jeez. Yes, that's just like that's the thing. Like those systems aren't.
No,
clear. Like,
it doesn't tell you basically anything.
I sort of assumed it wouldn't.
Doesn't even tell you what the lighthouse does, really.
No, it sort of says get more resources in its area, and I sort of thought that would be like, does that mean like a little bit like the amulets, right, where you get a little bit more resource per thing you mine or thing you.
I think the main thing the lighthouses affect is fish traps, right? Like, I think the lighthouse buff multiplies the output of fish traps. I think that might have been what I did to get the money. Like, you just build a ring of lighthouses so that you have a bunch of fish traps in the middle that are covered by like 12 lighthouses, and then every time they pop, it's just like this giant pile of things to sell.
Right.
And obviously, because you've got super high luck or whatever at that point, you're getting multiples of the artifacts and everything. Just sell all that shit off.
Sell it all. I'm here trying to find my find the achievement list on the Xbox app, and I'm really struggling to actually find it on this damn app.
Classic app problems.
Yeah. I thought that would be like the most obvious thing. Well, okay, not the most obvious thing, probably not. But like one of the things you'd want to access, like if I go to my click, it's got an icon of me, and I thought, oh no, I'll go to my profile. And no, all it is like my social feed, which is obviously not a thing on Xbox, but it's like, here's the achievements you got recently. And it's like, no, I want to see the achievements for the game. Ugh. Not thought through.
Well, not for your use case anyway.
Wait, unless I can go to Forager and then it's in there.
I mean, that would make sense as well.
Except I got to one of the individual achievements and I can't get to Forager from the individual achievement. Oh, this is frustrating. Good job.
Great job.
Yeah. Your progress. There you go. 350 gamer points.
That still seems low.
Out of 1,000.
I'll have to look at those achievements later on and see.
Yeah, there's Trillionaire, Void Master, Production Master, own 100 nuclear structures. There's one for making 200 structures in general, which I don't have.
Well, that one seems like you should have just got that one anyway.
Like just making bridges, do they count?
Well, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely haven't got 200.
But like banks, that will take up some of the space of...
I've got like 9. I didn't need that many.
Well, not unless you want to make a trillion coins, I guess.
No, well, no. But open every big treasure chest, so I guess I'm missing some of those.
Maybe
however they
museum, probably.
Maybe, yeah. Complete every museum bundle.
Well, yep, there you go. That's at least a couple of extra big treasures.
Get every tool and weapon, get every accessory.
Oh, yeah, so I guess most of the achievements are the end.
End stuff, yeah. Get every seal. Yeah, so there you go. Grind. Too much. Which is a shame, because I liked the speed of it at the start. The speed of it is like, you're like, oh, now do this, now do this, now do this. I just wished it sort of carried that momentum a bit more.
Yeah, I guess it's because it moves away from new buildings, essentially. Like, it's a lot of upgrades. And,
sort of.
Well, yeah, kind of. And then these whole other mechanics like the void and whatnot. It's not like you're not just building more stuff that's better any longer.
Anyway, that's Forager.
Yep.
I finished a game.
Which one? The
I
big
finished
one, hopefully.
the Punch Win.
No.
the Punchin'. Because that game's not very big.
Well, no.
It's not very long at all. But I had a good time with it. It really doesn't outstay its welcome, which is, doesn't get a chance to. But it also doesn't expand its mechanics particularly far. It's not a super complex game. But it is. I do like how it's made. It turns out there's a couple of boss fights in it that are like just 2. And they're quite well made, so they were quite fun little. Although the second one took me a while to figure out what I was actually supposed to be doing, but not really a bad thing. They're well executed. It's a well made game, and I kind of have respect for Shin'en just putting out something really tiny at the right cheap price for just a super bite sized little experience. What a great little thing. And with, their usual, like, flair.
Right.
The music is way better than it has any right to be. I think I talked about it last time. They sort of go for this sort of, like, almost Genesis, like, FM synthesis sound throughout it. And it's good. It's good stuff. Shin'en do good music in all their games. Yeah. Fun little experience. And also the best name in video games. The Punchin'. I finished that. I did finish Yakuza.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
It's all right. You don't need to worry. I did finish Yakuza. I did a whole bunch of side stuff to get there. And I discovered more side stuff that I haven't done. Because... I'm not quite sure. I don't really think at this point the payoff would be enough because, as I said before, I'm not going to 100% this game. No. It's like it is a ridiculous challenge to do that in a Yakuza game. But that game ends real well, is what I will say. It's not quite up there with its usual levels of ridiculous. Oh, here's a twist. Now here's another twist. By the way, that first twist was a total fake out. Here's the real twist. It's not quite as mental as that as it has been in previous Yakuza games. It's quite, in a weird way, it's quite straight for a Yakuza game. Like you here's the story.
Right. Like, I guess that's kind of because it's a prequel, right?
Maybe, yeah.
You can't fit quite as many twists into that without them ruining the future stories.
I mean, yeah, to a point, you're right. But it does, like, lead in... It has one of those, like, endings where it's, like, like at the end of Bake Off or something, or, like, shows where they do, like, a little cutaway and be like, Majima went on to do this, and this.
Yeah, I'm sure he did.
And they sort of hint at what happens in Yakuza 1 and the other games without outright saying it. It's pretty well done. But commit to the ending. It is a multi-hour sequence.
No, so that was your problem.
It's a bit of a... Well, it's fine because quick resume.
Right, okay.
Quick resume on the Xbox gets you out of that one. But it's a multi-hour experience, and the end cutscene alone is like 45 minutes.
Not credits, just like the cutscene.
Actual cutscene content.
Whoa.
It's great. I love it.
Sit down for an episode of TV.
Yeah, but it's so well done, and it's such like it feels like the conclusion the game wants, right? You've been through this 80-hour experience, have an ending, and it's not just you did it, you're done. Raise sword to the sky and shout Dovahkiin, or something. It's not.
I don't even remember the ending.
Right. It's it goes to town on it, and okay, spoilers. And this might be one that you might want. So skip ahead like a minute or two. Here we go. That was your moment. Here we go.
Okay.
Majima and Kiryu never meet.
Okay. So all that speculation about how it was going to tie it all up, it kind of doesn't need to.
Clever.
The only thing... their stories always intertwine, but they never actually meet until the epilogue. And then they just have... That is the very last scene of the game, where they just sort of see each other in Theatre Square in Kamurocho. And they sort of and they sort of look at each other and sort of give each other a sort of like knowing look, and then Majima goes, "Kiryu-chan!" and then it ends.
Nice.
Does that not explain why he thinks Kiryu is such a big deal then, or does he get enough information?
They know what each other did at that point, but they don't. But they've never met each other. It's I will say, I think the game drops the ball on a couple of key aspects. So I think I mentioned early on that Kiryu's back isn't properly inked up. Right. He hasn't got. He's got the outline of his dragon tattoo, but it's not been filled in yet. And I thought it's it'd be smart if the game actually sort of played into that a little bit and be there was a key part of the storyline. Like one of the other Yakuza games, he gets it re-inked, and that's actually part of the storyline. He gets it touched up,
right? And
it's but they don't they don't address that there. So I think that's a missed opportunity. But actually, I think the dumbest thing they do is they don't. I thought they were going to unveil their signature fighting styles as part of the story progression, right? So it would be like a final act switch flip or something, and they're now Kiryu's the Dragon of Dojima. So he unlocks his dragon fight style.
Right. Well, the other games kind of do that, right? It's usually the last one that you get.
Kiwami 1 does the best job of that, right? Because he's been... The setup for Yakuza 1 is he's been in prison for 10 years.
Yeah, so he has to relearn.
He has to relearn his style. Yeah, he's rusty. And that's why Majima is chasing him everywhere to help him relearn his style. But that doesn't happen. And it doesn't happen to Majima either, by the way. He doesn't have his mad dog of Shimano fight style either. He hasn't learned that yet. The way it's unlocked is through the side games, their money-making things. So for some reason, Kiryu becoming a real estate god
gives him a fighting style.
Gives him the Dragon of Dojima fighting style. It makes no sense. And the same thing happens to Majima. He becomes the Tsar, as the game is called, the Tsar of cabaret clubs.
Okay.
And somehow that unlocks Mad Dog of Shimano fight style, which is him a combination of breakdancing and dagger slashing and diving around the floor like a mad mother.
Yeah.
It makes no sense at all. It's a nice it's a nice thing to gain from going through the effort of maxing out these side quests.
Is it though? Because surely by that point, would you ever use it?
Well, so if you were trying to 100% the game, there's a bit more to it than that. It unlocks these this overclock skill tree as well, so you can if you've got money to burn and you've already maxed out the rest of the skills, which I hadn't done in fairness because those skills get expensive,
right?
And it's all money based, right? This one, so you have to spend your money on the skills. Excuse me. Like you get this like overclock skill tree for like the dragon skill tree. Basically, gives you increase your fighting, increase your power of your attacks by a tiny amount by spending money on this tree, or increase your health by a tiny amount by putting it into this tree. And I think it's possible to fill that tree. And then there's a completion point bonus you can unlock for each character called Limit Breaker that I think then unlocks it again. So you can start like pushing your character beyond like the normal skill tree limits, which you probably are going to need if you're going to start doing the Colosseum, or do the Colosseum to its full potential. So there's a couple of extra layers of character progression if you really want to go there, and they are very, very minor upgrades each time, but it's there. These games are ridiculous; they really are. But yeah, that was I think that was the one major like disappointment I think about this. Like was just it was just that reveal. That feels like such a key part of those characters, and I think they dropped it.
Right, especially because this is like the first time they would use those skills.
100%. This is them finding out who they are, and it's completely irrelevant to like the main storyline. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right at all. So that's a shame. But also, like the general, I think the general craziness factor of this one is a bit lower than it was in like some of the previous games. It is a bit straighter. It is even though the systems are kind of mad with all the money focused elements. And the fact that you're just casually throwing around £1 billion yen in places, which what's that work out to? £100,000, something like that.
That's not that bad.
Yeah, I don't actually.
Just sounds worse.
Like $1 million maybe pounds, something like that. But it's just the general craziness level is lower than the others. Still a damn good game. I'm now what I predicted has happened. It's like as soon as I finish the story, I have not touched that thing again. It's just like breath of fresh air. I'm out.
Well, now you get to play some other things.
Now I get to play some other games
for the rest of the year, maybe.
Yeah,
you can breathe easy.
To that end, I have started something new.
Oh, good.
Yay.
And that thing is Penny's Big Breakaway.
Oh, right.
Because I felt like I kind of had to. So this is the yo-yo based 3D platformer that is essentially made by a large component of the team that made Sonic Mania. And you can really tell. So it's not Machine Head Games. It's not. I don't think Christian Whitehead is involved. I don't think it's those names, so to speak. But it's I think they're called Empire something now. It's a new studio name. But yeah, you can really tell it's sort of got like the menus and stuff all look a bit Sonic Mania. Like there's the sort of like grids and things moving around and shapes to it and the design of it. The music, I haven't checked the credits, but the music sounds very T-Lopes.
Right.
And very much that sort of, it's got that sort of like early 2000s, late 90s Sega vibe to it that I love. So the music's all that kind of a bit old school feeling, but a bit new school feeling. It's got a little bit more of a circus vibe to it because of the yo-yo thing, right? So it's not 100% hitting the same Sonic notes that I want, but it fits the game well. It's a pretty good game. It's pretty good, and because it's old school, and like it's hitting my nostalgia points, but it's also like it's interesting enough that it's. It doesn't feel like a game I've played before. So the stage designs are all quite, you go into it, you start a level, and it puts like a graphic comes up on screen saying, this is stage 1-1, tells you the name of the level, blah, blah, blah. And then it all pans out of the way, and then you're off. It's very Sonic in that respect. And then you make your way through the stage. There's a time attack if you want to really hit it and try and get through the stage as quick as you can. It's got that same vibe. There is a way to get through the stages fast. But what sets it apart is its moveset. Its moveset is interesting. So you have you have kind of a double jump, but super effective. Most of your move set revolves around the yo-yo, so you can double tap the yo-yo button and it throws the yo-yo out in front, and then the yo-yo sort of locks in place and pulls you to it, which gives you like a speed burst, so you can use that to dash around and cross gaps. But if you want to cross gaps in a little bit more controlled way, you can hold the yo-yo out. It will still lock in place in midair, and then you swing on it. And it becomes like a swing mechanic to get you across. So there's multiple ways of using it to your advantage. But you can also throw it on the ground and then you ride it like like Sonic in a ball, I suppose. That becomes your quick way of getting round. But you're then very momentum based, so you're affected by hills. And the thing is very drifty as well. So you've got to drift. Every now and then the levels get away from the platforming and they open up into these wider areas that are all conveniently, subtly downhill most of the time. So you can break out the yo-yo and drift your way down these hills and pick up stuff along the way. It's a neat moveset, but it takes a little bit of getting used to. So it's got like a standard like automatic control scheme, but it defaults to what it calls Pro Mode, so which gives you multiple ways of doing things. So you could either press X and it will throw out the yo-yo in the direction you're facing, some with a little bit of finesse, so it will target stuff in front of you a little bit cleaner. But you can also just use the right stick to throw the yo-yo out in whatever direction you want. So if you want to go manual, maybe override the auto targeting, stuff like that, you can. And because you're then using the right stick, there's conveniently the throw the throw the yo-yo to the ground and the jump button are on left trigger on the left triggers. So you can basically like do it all with just that setup if you want, as well as having button combos to do all of that as well. It's pretty well thought out, but as I say, because it takes a little bit of getting used to. There are quirks to it. Like, so if I've thrown the yo-yo to the floor and I'm riding it, I then just can't throw it out again because I'm riding it. I've got to jump off it first and then throw it out in order to do the things I need.
Right.
But then I'm not riding it anymore. So if I want to ride it again, I've got to throw it down again if I want to keep the thing going. And there's a combo system. So if you want to really rack up the points on a level, and there are score targets on the levels if you want to unlock like scrapbook stuff and concept art stuff. So there's other targets and things to do. You probably need to worry about that combo and keeping that going. And the combo breaks if you're just standing on the ground. At any point, even if you're running or anything like that, the combo breaks. It's pretty harsh. It's pretty hard to get that combo meter up. But it's there. And it feels good when you get it right. It's just quite tricky to get it right.
Yeah. But you're always going for it. Or trying to get that.
I mean, it's there, and it's got quite large text on the right-hand side of the screen pretty much the entire time you're doing anything. So you're kind of like encouraged to or it makes me feel like a little bit like, oh, there must be a cleaner way of doing that. Or there must be a slicker way of doing this. It's like the Devil May Cry thing, right? Where it's constantly giving you a rank when you're in combat. It's like, oh yeah, I want to be doing that a little better. Maybe there's a way. And I know there's an achievement for scoring a 100 combo somehow. And I'm like, how on earth do I get that?
Well, but that could be like the Tony Hawk's thing.
There must be a cheese somewhere.
Yeah, a cheese rail where you just go around in a circle forever.
There was definitely... So this is the other thing. The levels have... There's 6 secrets, sort of secrets, in every level. There's 3, like, I forget what they call them, star bolts, I think they're called. You have to find in every level, and those are just hidden collectibles. You have to go out of your way to try and locate them. But there's also 3 jobs you get given. So they're like the NPCs in the level. Some of them will have an exclamation mark over your head, and you go up to them, and there'll be a little quick challenge related to them, like, carry this thing over here. You can't get hurt while you're carrying this thing. Go over there. Or you got to pick up these things real quick. Or take this slightly harder route. Go on, I dare you. That kind of stuff. And so you've got those challenges to do throughout the level as well. Just mixing it up a little bit. Just giving you a reason to slow down, which is a little bit of the antithesis of the whole combo system and the time attack thing. But there's a reason that like, yeah, there's targets there as well. But the more of those jobs you do at the end of the level, there's like a a stage to land on, and it's a 3-tiered stage. And if you manage to land on the monkey target in the middle, hit that sweet spot in the middle, you get to busk for longer, which is basically just a little quick time event game. But that then adds to your score at the end. So if you've managed to do all the jobs, you get a bigger crowd for the busking bonus at the end. So I haven't quite worked out what's the best scoring strategy. Do you just speed your way through it, or do you have to speed and then do the jobs whilst you're on your way, and then busk at the end in order to get maximum bonus? I haven't quite figured out what the good strategy is for that, but it's just a really nice game. It's got some negatives, as I said. Controls are a little bit finicky, something like that. I think the color palette isn't going to be for everyone because it's pretty garish, and it's pretty garish in a way that I find really hard to explain. It's like it's missing green or something. Like there's green in it, but it's like it feels like it's like your monitor is set to super vibrant, but the color balance is off in some way. like it's really hard to. It's really unique. For a game that is just like throwing bright colors at you the whole time. Like maybe I need to throw Zach at it and see if he can come up with some words to explain it, because I'm struggling. Perhaps go check out the trailer and you'll see what I mean. Like it is bright and colorful, but it also feels like it's missing something. Like there's a channel missing or something. It's a strange look, but I'm kind of into it. And also I would say like it's, I wouldn't call it combat, but basically like your main antagonist in this game is the penguin army, because of course, and the penguin's main mode of attack is to just grab you, and that doesn't really slow you down at all. But if you get grabbed by 6 penguins at the same time, that's enough to overpower you, and that's basically a what they call captured, and all that really does is make you lose one of your 4 health points and put you back at the checkpoint. And I don't know, that seems to be the bulk of the peril. In the sure, you can fall off the level. There's holes you can fall in. Sure, there are electric walls that are just going to hurt you if you touch them. There's some standard stuff there, but these penguins are like the bulk of the problem. And I don't know that that's a particularly fun mechanic. Right, it's like having things latch onto you, and then you having to sort of push them off, lest you get like captured and have to restart a section. You can fight them off a little bit by just trying to run a combo essentially. So if you're throwing your yo-yo out and you're tricking off it and getting through there, that will be detaching the penguins from you.
Yeah,
and you can go into a sort of like whirlwind spin thing that you just throw the yo-yo around you and that will knock a few of them out. So you can do that as well.
Getting overwhelmed or something.
Yeah, you've got some tools at your disposal, but
but
I'm not so sure that that's a particularly great enemy type. Like maybe it would have been nice to have some sort of I don't want to say homing attack. That's not really what I mean, but some sort of like better interactions with enemies. There's one enemy you find later on called the golf bull, because it's a bull that's a ball, and when you hit it, it rolls like a golf ball, and there are golf holes you can put them in.
Okay,
but that kind of forces you to stop and then and line yourself up, and then throw your yo-yo out to push the bull in the right direction and stuff like that. It's not exactly in the flow. If you get my drift, it doesn't necessarily it's got all these great mechanics for trying to actually have a flowing run through the level, but then the enemies seem like they're anti that. It's almost like some people's problem with like Sonic, like where you're going, here's a high speed section, slam into a wall. But that's how they balance out. Okay, now you're doing platforming, right? That's the trick with that. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure that this is the best solution to having threat. And I have encountered a few glitches here and there. Like I'll be traveling in one direction. There was one time where I was traveling in one direction. I threw the yo-yo down onto the floor, to try and carry my momentum on in the wrong direction, somehow started traveling in the exact opposite direction. So going into the screen, suddenly started coming back out towards the screen, fell off the platform, instant death. Great. That wasn't my fault. I had some weird case where I jumped off a platform and then almost like latency sort of went whoop back onto the platform. That happened once. What else did I encounter? I've had a few glitches here and there. Is what I'm trying to say. There was one bit of land I felt like I found I could just walk through. Like they missed a collision box on it and fell through the level. Admittedly, I was doing some exploration at that point. I was trying to see if there was a secret there, and instead I found a secret death hole, I guess.
Okay, fair.
Because it's quite generous with like where you can go if you can get on top of the buildings and some of the structures. It will let you get up there, and they're normally like, well, as I said, most of the time, like all the collision boxing works. You can get up there. You might not have it. There might not be any point in you doing that, but you can if you find a way up. So most of the time, it's solid. It's a pretty cool game. I'm about a third of the way through the story, according to the percentage that it gives you. That stage select music is a banger. It's good. And I've not been super impressed with the boss fights thus far. Second one in particular was a bit, I don't know, bit ropey. They're trying to use the mechanics of the game. Third one is inventive, at least, because you're sort of playing pool with a guy's head at one point, but not necessarily as mechanically sound as you would hope. Yeah, it's a pretty cool game. Good job. I'll be following these devs. A bit more. They're as I say, anyone who wants to go for that Sega vibe, I'm all in.
Sweet. A very positive Rob review. Great George.
Penny's Big Breakaway, available now.
Penny's Big Breakaway. Great title.
I think it's on all platforms. So I can't talk to the Switch version. I don't know how well it'll run on there. I'm playing on Series X, and it's smooth as.
Does this qualify as premium indie or only?
Yeah, well,
standard indie.
I don't know. Yeah, probably regular indie, I guess, because we don't. It's an unproven studio. I guess you have to reserve premium indie for people like Supermassive, I guess. And Supergiant. Sorry. Oh, which one is it? I can't remember which one it is. Is it Supermassive or Supergiant? Supergiant. Those sorts of studios. Maybe Hello Games counts as premium indie now.
Well, we'll see when they release their second game. Not actually their second game. The second No Man's Sky game.
Yeah. But they were kind of Sony funded, right, for No Man's Sky. I don't know.
Kind of.
Yeah, tricky.
Jonathan blows all of 2 games, I guess.
Yeah.
No, those are classic indie. Those aren't premium indie.
Fair.
I mean, Braid is definitely classic indie. I don't know where. I don't really know where Witness would fall.
The Witness. That's premium, surely.
I don't know if that is premium. There's not much to it, really. In terms
of enough for it to be game of the year.
Well, no, I mean,
it's a big game.
It's a very specific thing, but there's not like if you think about, as we've said at the time, it's like you could have that game and not have the world.
Oh, I see what you mean.
That whole thing is kind of, except for the secret stuff, but you don't really need that.
It could be a mobile game. Yeah, that's what you're saying. Yeah,
didn't have to be what it is, but I'm glad it is.
But I don't know. Wasn't that the whole point? Was that you had to stand in the right places to get the?
Yes, that is actually why the world exists.
The world puzzle.
But the rest of the puzzles, obviously, you don't need that at all. And then that, if you want to talk about weird endings of indie games, that game has one for sure.
Pretty great weird ending.
Kind of.
I don't know. Well, maybe great's not the right word, but it's weird. It's weird.
Shit like Fez is clearly premium indie, even though it's old.
Oh no, I'd put that in classic indie because again,
classic indie is a whole new genre.
Polytron was like one guy, right?
Yeah.
Mostly. So like that's a one guy project. Like Forager, I suppose.
Stardew.
A one guy project.
Yeah, Stardew.
Yeah.
But, like, it does what even are we defining these things as? Does it mean one guy worked on it? I don't think so.
No, it doesn't. We're just trying to tier. A budget is always should be like that is probably like the key of tiering.
Yeah, but budget
games,
doesn't work for indie games. That's kind of the point.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they're indie. That's why they're not AAA or triple B.
No, but budget defines risk in the modern landscape, right? Smaller budget, high risk. Generally,
but that doesn't necessarily work for indie, especially not if it's literally one guy who's paying himself essentially.
Alrighty, is that your gaming for the?
Yeah, I think that's the bulk of it that I can remember. Anyway, those are the highlights. Lego 2K Drive to come.
Lego 2K Drive next time.
Probably.
Lego 2K Drive. Cool. I played a little bit of Civ 6.
Oh, really?
I noticed. Saw you on there.
I still can't figure out how to have fun with that game. I don't know. I definitely had more fun with Civ 4 back in the day than I do. I think I skipped Civ 5, so we're talking like a long period of time, but like it all looks good and everything and it makes sense, but I don't know why I can't get it.
Because you can't make a huge pile of units, right?
No, you can't. Exactly.
It's too tactical. You have to commit. You have to care about these individual units instead of just building more of them.
And I usually have like the one warrior that spawned at the start of the game is usually like a tank. It's like my one guy
the whole time
throughout all of history, which doesn't seem to fit with like the grand sweep of history. Like, it's either too slow or way too fast.
Yeah.
And I can't change the set. And if you change the settings to make it slower or faster or bigger or smaller, it fucks up all the balance.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm always like already in the industrial age before I've managed to move one guy across the map or something like that. It's just feels weird. And like, I never know how many settings I'm supposed to have. Because I always have too few, and I'm trying to make settlers early on, but then there's never any good spots to settle. I suppose you're supposed to take over other ones, but then when you have loads of cities, like you have the same decisions to make over and over again. It's like, oh, this one needs a granary or whatever it is.
Well, they aren't decisions. That's the thing. You're just like going down the list. Or your internal list where you've got the build order, basically.
Yeah,
where you're like, every city is going to need these things, so we'll just get them done.
But you're just presented with so many choices that are like non-choices throughout the game. But like there's so much that could potentially influence things, but I never have any real connection between like some of the micro decisions I'm making and what actual impact that has on the actual game. I don't know.
I don't know if it's better or worse when thinking about like me playing Alpha Centauri, where like for me that whole game is just terraforming. All I'm doing is constantly working the landscape and like planting a forest and then planting the fungus and then building a road and then building a center tower. And it's like that's most of every turn is just me managing a massive fleet of terraformers, making every tile as optimal as possible.
I mean, I have to admit the builders part is the bit I enjoy most of, like, going around improving the tiles around the cities or whatever.
Like if it's kind of like, obviously that does contribute to the output of your cities or whatever, how much manufacturing or food or whatever every tile is making. But like it almost feels like that mechanic needs its own sort of tech tree or victory condition. Like just making a really cool country on the tiles should be a way to win, almost.
Because that looks really nice and that's fun to do. I like making it look cool and everything.
The infrastructure victory.
Yeah. But instead it's like, and the victories, obviously the conditions are like, they're labeled right, because the science victory is really about having the most production
yeah.
so you can, and stuff like that. I was trying to do the culture victory and it had like a million freaking great works and everything, but I still couldn't figure out how to get the tourism or whatever the win condition for that. And there's always some AI that's going for the religion victory that just floods the whole board with the freaking priests or whatever and just takes over everything, because I never have any defense against religion because I've been concentrating on defense against being murdered. I don't know. And then there's tons of mechanics piled on with all of the expansions. Like there's all the espionage and like a million.
Well, I was going to ask, what are you playing? Are you playing Civ 6 base or are you?
No, it's got the Rising. I think it's the Rising Storm expansion or whatever. I don't know if that's the latest one. There's definitely at least 2 expansions stacked on top of the base that I'm playing.
That's the old Civ thing, isn't it? Like, or historically, it's been wait until all the expansions out. That's the one you want to play. But is that actually true here? Like,
Civ 6 is old enough that it has all the stuff. That's definitely true at this point. But I don't know. I just can't. Maybe it's Civilization in general, but I'm pretty sure I remember having giant, campaigns and stuff in Civ 4 that I'm just not having in Civ 6. So I don't know. But I mean, it still has that one more turn thing, but I just don't feel satisfaction for it. And I can't figure out what I'm doing. And I'm sure there's a way to make it fun for me, but I can't figure it out.
I think in general, the combat in 5 and 6 is just because you don't have the giant unit stacks, it doesn't feel as satisfying.
Yeah,
you don't feel like you have a massive army and you're making these dramatic, because it was really bad for the actual functionality of the game, but just having 50 units moving across the table taking forever, that was kind of cool.
I mean, can you still do that? But they just have to take up 50 spaces.
Well, yeah, but then you can't maneuver. That's the actual problem. When each unit has to be on its own individual space, actually maneuvering them around the map is just a pain in the ass.
Because you actually have to.
You can actually combine into armies.
Yeah, you can make an army, and if you get a general. I forget what the rules of that are.
Yeah, you need a general. Yeah,
but it's not nearly as ridiculous. And it does.
Are there certain cultures that are better suited to the armies then? Because presumably there are phases, or I think people cultures where it's where it is. Just,
I mean, they have bonuses.
Let's get more people and throw them because that's what our culture do for some reason.
They have bonuses, but just that whole inherent system means even just having, I don't know, 1 extra military unit per military unit you build or something would be too ridiculous. You can't just give people that many extra units in that context of that game, because proportionally it would be too much. If you only got 1 extra unit out of 50, then it's not too bad.
So they're supposed to be a bit like Advance Wars, and that the units represent squads in a way.
I mean, they do. And visually also.
Right. So would increasing squad size be an acceptable boon to get around this, or
I don't know. The size of the unit is just its health pool, really, and then it has a damage output that always stays the same. It's not like Advance Wars.
Oh, right, where if you have one guy, he's only going to do 1 damage.
Well, it does that too, but not, I think, does it? I don't even remember. It's been a long time since I played Civ, but I don't think the combat was ever rebalanced to the non-stacking almost. Or maybe it was balanced away from combat too much. With all the culture, when they added all these other ways to win, culture and religion and all that, maybe combat sort of fell by the wayside and was not a thing that they cared about so much when they were balancing it.
Right. Because I thought they moved away from stacking in Civ 4 as well.
No, Civ 4 still had the stacks.
Oh, right. Because I thought that was actually posed quite a UI problem at the stacking, right?
Well, yes.
To be able to actually see what
that was another one of the reasons why they got rid of it.
Yeah.
There must be a way. I can't figure out how to solve my time problem, because obviously the games are long, but I want it so
ridiculous.
But I want it so that in ancient times there was a battle between Carthage and Rome destroyed Carthage, and Carthage assaulted the earth.
Scenarios.
And then in the medieval times, England and France had 100 Years' War, but they ended up being allies. And then in the modern times, they fought Germany. I want that to happen, but that never happens because it's just like you only really, in the whole sweep of history, you only really have time to like fight one other civilization.
Well, and also like
you
just either win or lose. Like you don't. There's rarely do you then become allies with someone you fought in the past.
Yeah, which happens in the real history, and it's fun and it's interesting.
I mean, Civ you have to kind of treat more as it's more like it is a board game.
It's just a big game of Risk or board game.
Yeah, exactly. It is a board. You don't really have rise and fall amongst the other civs, right? It's you're like the rule is it's like you're not rising fast enough. That's the.
It's just I'm asking too much of it. It's just a big board.
No, I mean,
and if you're going to
you're not wrong. I really like that idea as a concept. Like if there was a way of playing out a game where having a fall yourself as a player, like if it was balanced in a way where it's like you could suffer military losses, you could have a thing, but the game and the scope of it is long enough where it's actually like I'm not boned by this. Well, it's like I'm disadvantaged, but there is room for me to recover because everyone else could get boned.
Well,
and Civ has never really like felt like the other civilizations or the AI civilizations necessarily actually combat each other in a way where that happens.
Well, a way to do that would be to have some kind of, it'd be like a Civ game, except where like each age would be its own game of Civ, and then it would and then there'd be like miscellaneous time would pass, and then it'd like reset into a new mode, and maybe like you'd get different bonuses depending on what happened in the previous age or something.
Sure, and some board
it'd
games
like create a new setup for the next age.
Yeah, that's quite
be cool.
That's a relatively common board game mechanic, actually, isn't it? Where it's sort of like there is a transition to a new age, and things happen. The game changes essentially when you do that.
But that's not what Civ was ever about. Civ was about playing every single one of those years.
Does this make you more interested in Ara? Microsoft's take on it?
Maybe. I mean, I
don't think we know enough about that mechanically to know how different it is. I mean, because what they've shown so far does look a lot like Civ.
It looks pretty civvy, yeah.
I mean, maybe I should just be all in Barlow style and just be playing fucking Crusader Kingdoms or something. You know what I mean? Maybe that's got the stories, the lines that I'm probably looking for.
Or Total War.
Yeah, go back to a Total War or something.
Okay. Yeah, I could go back to Total War, but I don't know if I want the big battles. I'm happy with
you want the
meta
game
aspect,
but not the fighty bit.
I mean, I don't know. Who knows? It just doesn't quite have live up to its name in the way that
I know what you mean. You kind of want. It's frustrating, isn't it? Because I kind of understand how Civ is how it is because I don't know. Okay, what would most players do if they got to a point where they were? I don't know. The Japanese came in who are combat aggressive normally in these games, and they messed you up pretty early on. Or maybe even in the sort of mid-game, right? That you get messed up by someone, and it's like at that point, what's the drive to carry on? Because Civ is balanced in a way where it's like, no, I'm boned.
Yeah, you can't catch up very easily.
Yeah, how do you solve that? Like, do you need to basically add a rubber banding mechanic into the game somehow, where like disadvantaged nations have a way of clawing their way back up, but maybe it is slightly sneakier. Maybe it is espionage or something like that. Maybe it is.
That's a good example because that's
fun alliances
in the space of I don't know, in the space of 30 years or which is nothing. It's like a few turns of Civ, I suppose. The Japan sneak attacks America, and then America fight them completely to their home, and then nuke them, and then they establish a trading alliance, and then America's buying a whole bunch of,
and then become a technological powerhouse for a while.
This shit doesn't happen in Civ, but it would be way cool if it could.
Yeah,
it's like you need a version of Civ where instead of just defeating someone and wiping them out, they just become like part of your civilization, but like still independent. So they're it's like having it's like the city states almost, but like
yeah,
you do that with a whole Civ.
Yeah. I prefer that. I think they should. I don't even really like the city states. I think they should just be small civs that you can do that too.
Man, would it be fun if you could then
influence?
Would it be interesting if you could then politics your way to independence again?
Well, yeah. I mean, that would be the ideal thing. You'd have to manage your relationship with that other civilization, and so they could eventually trigger basically re-entering the game.
Yeah, like you somehow make it. Well, like Britain owning Hong Kong, right, and things like that. Or
yeah, exactly.
You somehow make it. It's like, no, this is frowned upon. You guys should probably like let us be alone again.
Yeah,
and they somehow there's somehow a way of swaying the rest of the worldwide community to be like, what are you doing, America? Give them back.
There is one interesting mechanic at the end of, I don't know if this was introduced in the expansion, I think it was, but I don't know which one. And I didn't figure it out before the game was over, but there's like similar to the priests or whatever, there's a faith-based unit in the late modern game, which is rock bands, and you can send them on tours and stuff. And
well, that's kind of funny.
Play. So it's quite cool. You can like extend your soft power, and you can have, say you were Britain and you didn't go all that well in the big war, and America ended up dominating the world, but you could still spawn the Rolling Stones and the Beatles and have them go, and you could still go for culture victory or whatever.
Like, I guess we are asking a lot by all these things. Like, don't we?
I know,
mean, it's already a complex game, and we're asking for like one hella layer of complexity on top.
Yeah, but I don't think it's something that anyone wants apart from me. Maybe I don't know.
Oh no, I think it'd be rad. Like, you want there to be so many mechanics, right? To the point where if you are focused on production, that there can be something else going on that isn't even on your radar. And but is enough to potentially upset you and overturn you. I
mean, that's what the religion and culture victories kind of were.
Religion kind of. I mean, religion has boned me up in the previous Civs. They sneak at you.
Yeah. But that's what those were meant to be. But in Civ, everything always boils down to production in the end. Like science victory is just production, culture victory is just production.
And production is often is like how many cities you have and resources, basically.
Yeah. And if you get combat screwed, then there's no recovery from that, right? Because you can't produce. I mean, even religion to that extent is kind of boned by that, right? Because you can't produce the faith units. Yes. You can't produce. So it's like.
I mean, my simple plan in Civ 4 was always attack your closest neighbor at the start of the game, so that you have 2 civilizations worth of spawn or whatever, and then be peaceful for the rest of the game.
Well, my simple plan for playing Civ was always just make the map generator put you on by yourself on a separate landmass, so you have far too much time to build up before boats.
Max cheese.
Right. Before boats. Yeah. Okay. That's one way to play.
Max cheese.
Yeah. Anyway, I suppose
I'm interested to see what Ara does, because Ara is trying to do a few things differently. It's trying to be a little, like, from what they've shown us, it sounds like they're trying to be a little bit more, this weird thing happened.
Like, I want all this because I want the kind of history theming and the stories of it. Like, and then I think if I'm going to play a board game as a video game, like, Into the Breach is much more my speed. That's a better game, I think.
Simpler rule set.
Yeah, way simpler. But I mean, it's not as simple as chess, and that's like
right.
That's
one of the deepest games ever made.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, played some Civ.
Yeah, cool.
It runs well on my Mac.
Of course, the Mac
with
version.
My big screen, so it works. I had to faff around to get it to run. I can't remember what I had to do. But after that, it was absolutely fine. It's the only thing that makes my Mac's fan come on that I've experienced so far. Yeah.
Makes it struggle.
Yeah. Well, not struggle. It's just
effort.
Needed. Yeah. Slight effort. Anyway, that's my games for the week.
Interesting.
Apart from Mario. But yeah,
Are we getting... How far away do you think we are from Civ 7? How long's 6.6 been now?
Well, they're done with the expansions, so...
Yeah.
Or seemingly done with the expansions, I don't know.
A couple more years, maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see a 7 turn up.
Yeah, they're probably working on it.
What's Anno? Like, how does Anno fit into this sort of... Is that more of a builder than a...
It's more like Tropico. It's like
okay.
city builder, but not in that way.
not so competitive.
It's like city builder, but focused on people, I guess.
A bit more population.
A bit more granular about the lives of the people rather than just a number.
Right.
Right, well, thank you for joining us, everyone. Do check out our YouTube channel. We've got a Let's Play of Half-Life 2 in progress. Episode 1 is up, so check that out. There'll be more to come, plenty more to come. And we'll be back with another one of these Saladcasts in 2 weeks' time, so we'll catch you then.
That sounded darker than I meant. I meant to be more of an inflection. That was more of an "I" that I had in my head, but that second half didn't happen.
Au revoir.